Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Upsurge Minor League for round 4 of the lower bracket. I'm Milky Cyril, joined by Rebel Fox. We're Milky Fox, and it's been a while, Rebel.
It has. Glad to see you. I know recently you unfortunately lost one of the best European leagues, and I'm glad to have you back in NA for at least a little bit of casting time because I know just how devastating a loss that was to you, my friend.
Oh, devastating indeed, but you always feel better when you see some quality drafts, and I think that's what we might be having in store for all of our viewers tonight, because we are in to pick some bans. Caitlyn and Thresh bound away by World Class Galaxy. Striking Vipers, they take away the set.
I like Striking Viper's takeaway of the set just immediately, knowing that not only does Tanzo play the champion, but it can also be flexed into the support role where it's Fly that likes to take that champion quite a bit as well. So that flexibility, making sure that's off the board, and doing their homework a little, knowing that Tingar likes to play that Zac quite a bit, making sure he doesn't have comfort on his champion.
Yep. Zac banned away as well, and a pick that Tingar definitely likes to play, as you mentioned. Bit of a one-trick player. I was very excited to see a Zac, and hopefully it will come through at some point during this series. The Ezreal banned away as well, but something I do want to look towards is Goo on You, the top laner for the side of Striking Vipers. He plays Darius, he plays Silas, and boy oh boy is he good on them.
Likes to take some of those champions that do a little bit of damage, have really good skirmishing power, I think. And that skirmishing power is something that I don't think gets matched all that much in a lot of their matches. But Tanzo is somebody that is perfectly capable of doing so. I know he likes to play things like the Riven, likes to play things like the Mordekaiser, the Aurelia. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of aggression out of the top side of the map here between these two. Fireworks, I think, are the lower end of the spectrum of what we're likely to get out of this top lane matchup.
And I'm also very interested, and I know you're interested as well, Rebel, is Tonzo, the top laner for World Class Galaxy. A player that you and I have both casted on for, over a year. Since my very first cast in NA, I think it might have been Tonzo playing himself. So a player that we both have a lot of experience watching, and the Volibear is the first pick. Flex potential could be going in the top, could be going in the jungle.
I do remember back in the days, of course, of Tanzo being able to take it to Rat and just destroying him in all ways and fashions. Your favorite player, top to bottom, but of course,
yes.
Tanzo. We go back to what we'd seen before. He's very good at the lane dominant champions, and actually a fair amount of this roster is people that I think both of us recognize. Yorners, Delon, Fly, they're all players from around the league that we've seen very consistently be able to put up very good performances.
Yeah, and you can call them veterans in the amateur scene, or at least the Diamond Amateur Leagues. The Olaf Yumi getting locked in the Yasuo. Okay, we have got Spice Rebel because we've got a run at you composition, and I want to see a Gragas, I want to see a knock-up composition to revolve around this Yasuo.
More importantly, I think the Yasuo right now is a flex pick because at the moment, Delon, their typical mid laner, substituting in for the bottom lane, plays a fair amount of that champion and can be used in that role very consistently. Yorner stepping into that mid lane role, of course, but this is the flexible champion. Yes, you can take it mid. Yes, you can take it top in certain matchups, but specifically, I'm expecting this to go into the bottom lane into the hands of Delon to make sure he has comfort for this game number 1.
Yep. The Ornn getting locked in as well, and I'm really excited to see this Striking Vipers comp. It's just one of those comps that it can either do really well or it can just massively nosedive and faceplant into the ground. And I'm up for either one.
At the moment, the laning phase at least is not looking particularly good. So you got the Ornn into the likes of Volibear, which is diveable. It's not the kind of lane dominant champion that we've seen before. It does bring a lot to the later game with a lot of engage, good front line, and then of course the item upgrades. But as opposed to the beginning of the season where it was basically like the lane dominant champion, it did everything that every champion could do. It's not quite in that. It's definitely a shadow of what we'd seen before. The Olaf Yumi is really interesting as a late game thing for a death ball composition with the engage of an Ornn. But again, getting there is a lot harder, especially with Yuumi having taken some of the nerfs as of recently to her laning phase, especially if you're going into something like Yasuo. It's really, really simple to get engaged on.
The other thing that I find interesting as well is the fact that not only was a Yumi picked up by Striking Vipers, but World Class Galaxy didn't go for something aggressive like, a Nautilus or a Leona into the Yumi. The Veigar picked up, this is a big pickup for Pure Genesis, one of his, if not his best champion in solo queue. And I quite like it, to be honest.
I also like it for a couple of reasons. The big thing is if you're running the Glacial Augment, you've got Twin Shadows, you've got GLP, ways to set up your composition on the opposite side. On the other side, we're seeing the Sylas. This has been a counterpick into the likes of Ornn. It's scaling, its ability to duel in the early game, and it's just overall strength, as well as being able to match that ultimate from Ornn with his own ultimate, is all the reasons why Sylas has just been a counterpick to Ornn pretty consistently. It's faded out a little bit since Ornn has kind of been at the top and Sylas hasn't been played as much, but it's still definitely on the cards potentially as the top lane grab here.
Oh, I am loving the picks so far. We get a LeBlanc in as well. Before we came live, Rebel, I was saying, oh, look at all of the picks that we might be seeing on the top side of the map. Tonzo with his Silas. Maybe we'll be seeing something from Gu on you. And sure, it's only an Ornn, but we mentioned the Veigar for Pure Genesis and Assassins for Dylan. We're getting everything all in one go. And on top of this, a Yasuo in the bot lane to pair up with the Lulu.
And interestingly, now also we see Striking Vipers. They're able to round out this composition of like Death Ball with Olaf, good engage and good catch potential with Ornn and Veigar, with a Lucian to try to get some of the early game pressure. And actually, the Lucian Yuumi has been something that's been popping back up as one of the better lanes. It's Yuumi Ezreal, and then it's Yuumi Lucian as the kind of the two mainstays, where that laning phase for Lucian is amplified by the strength of Yuumi. I don't think it gets aggressive. I don't think it really kills the Yasuo Lulu very easily in the laning phase without a gank from something like the Ornn, the Veigar, the Olaf, but certainly it's a little bit easier to manage in the early game. You have a bit more pressure on the wave, and I like it a lot more in this composition where you need some more forward pressure.
My only issue when we do look towards the side of World Class Galaxy is I don't like the fact that there's no Gragas. I saw Yasuo and I really wanted to see a Gragas come out. And sure, the initial idea for World Class Galaxy, which they seemingly have stuck with, is that the Volibear goes into the jungle. But one of the things I've been noticing from time to time with the Volibear is that when you take this Volibear, you want to have a comp that can really dive in under turrets and utilize this Volibear aggression. And to me, the side of World Class Galaxy don't have this.
Really? You don't see the Yasuo, Sylas, LeBlanc, and Lulu behind it as being aggressive enough to follow up on a Volibear?
I feel like it's aggressive enough, but when I think about turret dive potential, I don't feel like that is the greatest thing. I mean, sure, Lulual is great, but I don't know. I would have rather have seen an engaged tank come through.
Yeah, I could at least see that, and I think that's where Sylas has to fill in the holes in the later stages of the game, being kind of the Ornn ult stealing bot towards
Yeah.
the end of the game, where you're going to be able to have that one going. But outside of that, I think it's a little bit difficult, as you said. Later in the game, as the damage starts to pick up, the Sylas will really wreak havoc in the back line. The LeBlanc will just pop people like left and right, and even bigger, the Lulu sets up a really big ultimate engage with a Volibear jumping in with a Lulu ult behind it to get a 5-man knockup for Yasuo to be able to bring all this forward pressure. But you're right, it's really simple for the side of Galaxy here to end up getting brought down quickly, especially with the likes of Veigar, with the likes of Olaf and Lucian. There's so much just immediate damage accessible to a frontliner. You have to play very carefully if you're Sylas LeBlanc to not overextend.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a very interesting point, which is the fact that World Class Galaxy, they can get taken down very quickly. But I think, on the flip side, Striking Vipers, they've got that on for a front line, and that's it. If that LeBlanc goes in onto the back line, with or without a Sylas, she can one-shot any of the other 4 members from Striking Vipers. So my question to you, Rebel, is how do both sides really approach these 5v5 team fights? How do they look to play? What are the kind of win conditions?
All right, I will answer that question, but really quickly, I'm making sure that everybody has lobby codes so that we can get the lobby started to make sure that we can get into this one. And your question was, how do we go about executing on the compositions that have been
Yeah.
drafted between the two? For the side of World Class Galaxy, I think they need one of their carries to play around very specifically. So Volibear's job in the early game is A, don't die to Olaf, because Olaf is going to be very strong once Yumi's attached, but before that, you
Yep.
still have good gank potential. But you got to execute on that gank potential. Get the Yasuo head with the Lulu. Get the Sylas head. Get the LeBlanc head. Now you have, excuse me, a very legitimate point of contention to play with, and then the rest of your composition falls together. Once again, Lulu ultimate with a Volibear, with a Sylas, with a LeBlanc, whoever goes in, sets up your Yasuo, and the rest follow suit. As long as you've got one legitimate threat, your fight is very, very potent. On the opposite side, they have a couple of different ways to play. Ideally, you play specifically to the Vygar's Twin Shadows cooldown as well as the Ornn ultimate cooldown, and if they connect on the proper target, be that LeBlanc, be that Yasuo, be that Sylas, whoever it might be, then you pull the trigger. You immediately go in with the likes of Olaf, with Yuumi, and then with Lucian to be able to pop people. Use that Vygar as a deterrent. Put that cage up, prevent flanks from LeBlanc, prevent chains from Sylas, and that's generally how you're able to stop the composition. I think if we take this super late, it's easier to execute on the side of striking Vipers, but World Class Galaxy certainly have given themselves the champions necessary to try to start things off in the right foot.
And the interesting thing that you bring up to me is the fact that Striking Vipers, they have a decent composition for the late game, as you mentioned. It's more easily executable. But, initially I look over to the side of Striking Vipers and I say, Olaf, and I'm like, nah, that doesn't scale well. But then you remember Ornn upgraded items, and on top of that, you've got the Viger with the infinite scaling. It is a lot of damage and a lot of extra scaling that this Ornn does provide.
That it does. Not to mention, I mean, if you're talking about the Olaf exclusively, you look at the Yuumi, and Yuumi's best person to latch onto is likely the Olaf. Yes, you'll be attaching to Vygar and Lucian from time to time, jumping between people as they need heals. But for the most part, this Yuumi is going to jump on top of Olaf, throw that ultimate out, and set up the rest of the engage for the Lucian and the Vygar follow-up for everything else. So you're talking about like heal bot Yuumi on top of an Olaf with an upgraded Black Cleaver most likely coming out with full AD itemization. It's a very terrifying thing for Sylas, for Yasuo, for Volibear to have to deal with if you got the support behind it. Once it's Ragnarok is down, once you're starting to lose the ability to try to take that CC, that becomes more troublesome. But you kind of cross that bridge when you get to it for the side of Striking Vipers.
Yeah. Also, sticking on with the whole point of Striking Vipers, I do see the idea of this Yuumi sitting on the Olaf and just being this straight. I mean, at the end of the day, when I saw that Olaf Yuumi and kind of the Ornn as well, I thought, okay, this is a composition from Striking Vipers where they want to press those R buttons and say, we are going in, and there is no darn way you can stop us from going in. And I feel like the Vega maybe doesn't quite synergize with that as well. Maybe something like an Orianna could have been slightly more useful, but it does provide that late game scaling net. However, the point that I do want to bring up is I want to see this Yuumi actually go on the Vega in the late game stages, just so that there's that extra adaptive damage, just to make it a little bit harder to find the one shot on the Vega, and then he can just press R and blow whoever he wants up.
It makes LeBlanc's job really, really difficult when her full combo can't just like bring down Vygar when you've got the Yuumi attached to throw the Zoomies on top of Vygar. Not to mention, Vygar presses his ult key with like 1300 AP. Yuumi's giving him another 300 on top of that, and LeBlanc just erased right then and right there. It's pretty terrifying to think about in the future. I am a little bit worrisome of how Vygar's positioning is punished in this one. I think LeBlanc and Sylas and even Yasuo with a proper knockup from Lulu can get on top of Vygar and cause him quite a bit of mischief. But again, the whole point of Vygar is, say you don't have Ornn ultimate, the only way you really have of catching anybody from that point, you have like a go button, is from a GLP, from a Twin Shadows from Vygar. And the only way of preventing LeBlanc from getting on top of Olaf, on top of Vygar, on top of Lucian, is that cage being able to come in, stopping those flank angles. So I guess that's the intention here. You want more spatial control rather than having something like Orianna, which capitalizes better maybe on the team fight composition from Striking Vipers.
Yeah, and I think you really bring up another interesting point here as well, which I feel that as casters we don't talk about a lot, but it's where teams really want to fight, because I feel that for the side of Striking Vipers, they want to be in, those more kind of open situations in the lane where they have a bit more vision control rather than being somewhere tight like a jungle where that LeBlanc can get so much better access just from any angle.
Yeah, I think it's really important if we take it to like the mid and late game ideas to where you want to fight around. The side of World Class is really looking to engage in, so they don't need pressure in the river. If they're fighting into a pit, into a small clustered area, it's a little harder for Striking Vipers to turn out of that. outside of the Ornn ultimate, just catching multiple members and immediately being ready for it. It's a little harder to execute on that composition, and it's really easy to set up something like a Sylas ultimate with the Ornn, or, being able to get a Yasuo knock up from the Lulu, things of that sort, finding flank angles for LeBlanc. They're all really good ways when you're attacking into the river, not out of the river. If you're attacking out of the river on the side of World Class Galaxy, you got to be real quick with that engage, because it's all too easy for Veigar or Ornn to just throw up some sort of ability for you to stop. And then what happens to Sylas? He tries to jump in with chains. No one can follow him. He gets burst out. Your team fight's lost right then and there. I don't care whether World Class Galaxy has the priority in the river. If they're the ones letting the side of Striking Vipers into the pit first and forcing them to make the 50-50 play, their team fight's going to be set up much better.
And I think the other thing to bring up as well is the fact that, we've praised how Striking Vipers, they have this ability to everyone press R and they can go in. And to be fair to World Class Galaxy, or maybe to be unfair to them, they have no real way of disengage. Sure, your nurse can say, ciao, I'm off, but the rest of World Class Galaxy, they're kind of screwed. That being said, I do want to bring up something interesting, or not really that interesting, but I want to talk about hijack potential. How do we rate Tonzo's the ultimates that he can steal?
I would say, first off, the Ornn ultimate is absolute, godsend. That, if not the best. There's a reason why Sylas gets taken into the Ornn matchup. Then you talk about, the next best ones are either A, Veigar ultimates, where you're able to burst somebody that jumps into a composition. So say that the Olaf is running at you. If Olaf doesn't have a lot of MR yet, that ultimate can really execute him from a high level, especially if you're building a lot of AP on the likes of him. Or I would then say maybe the last chapter coming in from Yumi. It allows Tonzo to be more of a single person engage, especially if you find somebody like Pure Genesis, like McTrump, stuck somewhere.
Okay,
or
so I just want a number on a 0 to 10.
0 to 10 of all the ultimates?
Yes.
I'd give it a 7. Honestly,
Okay.
It's an immediate 5 anytime you've got Ornn ultimate right then and there.
Okay.
That's just that.
On that note, we're going to be heading into a quick break. We'll be right back with game 1 of the night after a short sponsor break from our sponsors over at Sector 6.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity.
We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we make our way onto the Rift for Game 1 of the night. World Class Galaxy take on Striking Vipers. Rebel, we've had a little look at the draft so far. When I say a little, we've gone into it in a fair amount of detail, but we haven't really talked a lot about the teams and how they got here. Because Striking Vipers, they came in as the 4th seeds from the Ocean Division, and straight into losers brackets, they've absolutely stormed their way through to the place that they find themselves in at 2-2-0s, and they are looking like a real force to be reckoned with, as Morn is going to get stunned up, but he's going to be able to walk that one off.
That they are. I think when you look like holistically at everything that had happened among all of like the UML as the season has progressed, there were a lot of leagues with really, really spectacular teams coming into a lot of them, and so we ran into the problem that a fair amount of the talent needed to get like a chance to come through. So like World Class Galaxy had a really good way through with their number 2 seed, but then ended up losing to another really good team coming in. I think it was Wolfpack Vengeance that beat them, all things said and done. And it was just a phenomenal set of games that came through from both teams. Yes, it had to be a lot harder work here from the side of Striking Vipers, but certainly, I mean, you see the strength of their team now after all things said and done. We never got a really good comparison because of how big the league actually is, so now we're finally seeing where these teams will place among others, and you see the division that they were in, which is very, very high.
Yeah, and you always do get to that stage where you compare, one division to the other. In this case, it's Cloud versus Ocean, and, I can't feel forced to sell World Class Galaxy a bit short, because as you mentioned, sure, they did come second in the group stages, but since then, technically they haven't won a game, because the 2-0 that they did end up taking against Super Athletic Dads was a win by default, so technically they haven't won a game in playoffs yet.
Correct. I will give you that to some extent. Now you have to think also, like, would they have won their series against Super Athletic Dads? I do not know. We'll see. Actually, wow, well, I just took a ridiculous amount of damage right there. But yeah, I think it's difficult to see when you finally get a chance to kind of measure teams against them. And that's a good first test maybe for the side of World Class Galaxy. You have a team that's had a lot of success in playoffs in Striking Vipers, and it's time for World Class to show that they were actually meant to be here. They were kind of the reason why they were placed number 2 in the group.
Yep. Now, both junglers have started on the bottom side of the map. They're working their way up towards this top side, where we did say we could be seeing a lot of aggression, especially if Tonzo can get ahead on his signature Silas Pit.
He can. Doesn't even necessarily need to get super massive lead here, but a more important thing is just to be able to stay even with the Orange continue quite a bit. They're ganking him already in this game.
The Kingslayer comes in. Goo on you. Well, he's going to get blooded on you. First blood goes the way of World Class.
All too easy to execute on, even better. Goo did hold his flash, which I do give a lot of respect to him for, because it was a difficult situation to be in, but very well planned out by Tingar. They find the chain, they find the stun as he tries to E backwards. W wasn't enough to prevent anything from coming down. E was well placed from Tingar as well. Just a perfectly executed gank right there. A little faster than the Olaf. Is down in camps at this moment, but still really, really solid play from Tingar to get his top laner header.
Yep. Also want to keep an eye on this mid lane as well, to see how your nurse can do into Pure Genesis, and whether Pure Genesis can keep it somewhat even in this lane. And you also mentioned about, seeing the icicles are coming through for this Vega. I do want to see if those will get picked up, or if we're going to be seeing something more like a Luden's Echo.
That typically comes with a Glacial Augment, and there is no Glacial Augment. This is Electrocute. He's trying to get a burst out of damage, which I think in the right situation will be very effective against Your Nurse and his ability to jump in, just because he can be a deterrent of, if Your Nurse jumps in, he just immediately gets comboed, takes the Electrocute proc with his ultimate, and immediately dies to Pure Genesis's damage. But I think it does prevent them. They are now pretty much exclusively in Ornn derivative composition, where if you don't tag with that Ornn ultimate, you now just have to rely on the fact that the side of World Class Galaxy will walk into you, put themselves in a bad position for the Olaf to take advantage of.
We do have a Drake coming up in half a minute's time, and Tingar is on his way down to the bottom side on his Krugs now, and Dylan and Flight have just reset, so they should have the ideal back timing and could look to support Tingar for this first Drake game.
that they could. I think it's really important also to note that Tingar was able to get the top side scuttle without much pressure against Moore, and then he immediately ran bot side, and there was no pressure from Moore to be able to get actually down to that bottom side. So he lost double scuttle, you had pressure at the river, they get the one ward down, there's not much control of that bot side river, and now you see Tingar, he has a lot of the clearing power with the likes of that Bomby Cinder to combine with the fact that this bot lane gotta reset off faster. You're now waiting, of course, Yumi's not much of a champion early on in this game to worry about in the first place, so it's a really big struggle here where, McTrump and Girlfriend came back with really bad itemization. They actually only bought Fairy Charms apiece.
Yeah. And we hyped up so much the combo of the Olaf with the Yumi, so I do want to see this become a threat at the very least from striking Vipers. And right now, McTrump and Kinney are having a decent time into the Yasuo Lulu lane.
As you'd expect with range champion. Of course, I do think from what I've seen right now, Fly got really aggressive early, got punished for it, and hasn't gone back to that same level of aggression, which I don't really agree with. I think Lulu is just kind of a naturally aggressive champion, combined with the fact that you're playing into basically a 2v1 lane when Yumi's cooldowns are down, so you have to play around that.
Tell you what, people talk about Volibear having trouble to run people down. Tingar not seeming to know that or realize that that's an issue on Volibear. He does a perfectly fine job of proccing the rest of the attack, and Morn might just have to reset now, as Tingar will do the same.
I really am just confused why Tingar is back on top side right now. There's more than enough pressure on your bottom side with LeBlanc having had push pressure to be able to take bottom side Dragon, and they had all the warding as well.
The exhaust come through, a flash from McTrump, and I guess that's a pretty good trade if you are the side of World Class Galaxy. 2 summoners are 4-2 coming through.
Yeah, still have the flash taken away from the lane solution, which means you don't actually have flash for either of the champions.
Oh, here comes Pure Genesis. Can he find the event horizon? Fly will flash away. Pure Genesis takes a bit of damage. Now the TP coming in from behind from Tonzo, who is going to be the focus. Guan Yu is coming down. Tonzo already taken down with the Primordial Burst. Searing Charge comes through, finds a knock-up on Tingar, who's forced to flash away. Will it just be the one kill going the way of striking Vipers? Jonas drops down. The baby cage comes through as Dylan looking aggressive. In goes Jonas, trying to find some damage. Dylan looks for something onto Pure Genesis, but will not come through successful. Flash away from Jonas. As the undertow snipes down Jonas, and well, there's no nurse to heal him up. He's going to get taken down, and that's the second kill of the fight, going the way of striking Vipers.
Yeah, 3 total after all things said and done. Really, really well played from the side of striking Vipers. It looked like a fantastic setup coming in at the beginning here for the side of World Class Galaxy, but as you said, Tonzo just got absolutely bursted out by the Electrocute Vigar, which prevented anything from coming through. He even had the Primordial Burst on his own. If they got even half of a little bit of a health, 100, 200 more health, there was a possibility potentially, that was a little bit of slingshot back and forth from Tingar, but...
Well, that's the Stormbringer on a cooldown, but, this is what we talked about. The fact that striking Vipers early on, they have this absurd amount of damage just from that Olaf Yumi alone, and then Guan Yu TP's down with the Call of the Footprint. That's all that's needed.
They have more than enough CC and damage to take advantage of that bot lane fight. I do think, again, that was a little bit anomalic. If Tons is able to find a better angle, if he gets in a little bit later in that fight, if they can't just pure focus him during the course of the fight, it could be better. Here's Jonas and Tonzo on topside tower.
Beautifully executed by Tonzo and Jonas. World Class Galaxy will add another kill to their collection. They find themselves a little bit down in gold. However, Rebel, I want to backtrack a little bit towards something that we discussed in Picks and Bans. And I don't want to say I told you so, because it's a little bit early for that, and I will definitely end up regretting it. But we talked about the Volibear and how good it is at turret diving. So far, I feel like it has not been utilized effectively.
It did get a kill top lane, which wasn't under the tower,
Yes.
and its only ultimate did
good.
have to be used to get over the Dragon Pit. So again, as you said, we haven't seen it yet. I think the most important thing is Tingar, if he's going to want to use it optimally, we need to see it either A, be coupled with the Lulu to get a knockup for Yasuo, or it needs to be paired with the LeBlanc, because LeBlanc has more than enough burst damage to just full combo somebody when that tower is completely out of focus, rather than looking for a reset. I don't think Tonzo's the prime location. If it is, bring your nurse up. If it's not, go bot lane, try to take advantage of Elon and Fly.
Well, here's the thing. There's something better that World Class Galaxy have to get that knockup for Yasuo than the wild growth from Fly. And it's the silence. We talked about the hijack potential. You steal the call of the forward god, you find that knockup, and then Yasuo just says Hasagi, and he just dashes to however many unlucky folks that get knocked up.
Yeah, actually, what I'm seeing right now on the map is the reset from Morn wasn't spotted out, or if it was spotted out, it was on that top side Krug, but they're ready to set up a dive potentially towards the bottom lane here, and they have more than enough mid pressure to bring your nurse down, so I don't think it's completely impossible for that to happen. They're going to try to push out. Dylan might actually pinch them here. Okay, Morn's here. This will end up being a 3v3, but I was really worried for the prospect to die here.
Whoa. Tinga tries to find a pinch as the wild growth comes through. It's a 1v1 and a 2v2, which will now turn into a 3-on-1. And Dylan somehow survives. The Morn gets taken down. The double kill for Tinga. And now they'll look to hunt down Pure Genesis, the Stormbringer through. Where is your nurse? Your nurse misses the abilities. Pure Genesis will survive, but the mid laners are super close, and one Q from Pure Genesis, one distortion. Jonas playing with fire. He baits out.
Oh.
Fly. Pure Genesis, he's just on the run.
Probably just executes here.
Jonas is on the way, and there's the execute.
Yeah, pretty easy. That was really rough. It's tough to try to chase down the Vygar when you are. I mean, your nurse was fractions of a pixel away from just dying to that one. Terrifying, but they were able to find it. That bot lane fight was a little bit messy. You did see at least a little bit of the strength of the likes of the Olaf Yuumi, but again, Yuumi is not a champion early on in the game. He basically is a minion, especially once those Zoomies are down, and that was the problem. Cooldowns aren't low enough. The AP isn't high enough. You're not getting the value of the Yuumi quite yet. In 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when you've got your first, second, third items completed, that Olaf's going to look a lot scary. He can take that kind of 2v3 type situation and probably come out very ahead, if not with 2 kills, maybe even 3 total kills altogether. But until that moment, I think we're going to be seeing that a little bit more often. Continue to take lights at that.
Ponzo trading onto Guanyu. Call of the Forge God comes through, but will not be engaged upon fully. Now, let's take a quick look at the jungle matchup, Rebel, because Morn, he is definitely ahead of Tinga when it comes to CS, almost to a 20 CS up, but Tinga is 3-0. And as an Olaf, that cannot feel good.
Yes, we talked about how Tingar had to gank early, just because, again, into the likes of just Olaf, it's very hard to find any champion, let alone just like the Volibear, that can out-duel something like an Olaf, which is very tough. And Olaf farms so quickly that it's near impossible to out-farm him, especially in the early game. But Stingar's been doing a good job of trying to get around the map, trying to find kills, things of that sort. As you said, it's tough that they weren't able to get a kill onto any of the carries that they needed, but at minimum, they do have a very powerful Volibear to work with if they want to kind of either A, push their power in the likes of the river, if you want to go for dragons, Rift Herald, things of that sort, or you want to gank specific side lanes. I think they need to prevent themselves from team fighting, because that's where the strength for striking Vipers comes in at this point in the game. But if they are able to prevent anything more than maybe a 3-for-3, which you're seeing right now, there's a lot of benefit to it.
The TP coming through from Tonzo. Why, you ask? Well, Infernal Drake is up. And looks like we're going to get that 5v5. And remember, Rebel, we talked about in Picks and Bans, the fight in these enclosed areas versus open areas. It won't matter, though, because the Drake has already been secured by World Class Galaxy.
Yeah, really nice job. I think it was just a faster rotation from the side of World Class Galaxy. They got all of their members there. The Vygar cage wasn't able to catch anybody at the end there to allow for an engage to come through. Just really, really well done. I think even maybe Guan Yu was already down there. He had walked down there in the right amount of time. Tanza had to burn the TP, but they were able to get the kind of first licks to the side of the Infernal Dragon, and they weren't able to find anything else on the map. That's kind of wasted time for striking Vipers that they could have used either A, pushing out topside, or even better, trying to get vision around the Rift Herald to trade objectives rather than...
Oh, the final chapter gets partially blocked as the last breath comes through. Dylan gets taken down. All of the Forge God will find the knockup onto a Fly, who will fall in a matter of a moment. Jonas with the TP, and Fly staying alive for a while, but will eventually get taken down by the piercing light.
They will. All too easy. They're just a little bit too far up, and the TP expended from Tanzo means that Guan Yu is able to make the play down towards the bottom side of the map. And there's even more dive coming here. Genesis looking around the backside, and this one could be rough for the side of World Class. Yeah, Yorners is stuck in a really bad position.
Jonas, he tries to whittle down the minion wave. He actually will take down Macron. What an outplay. Pure Genesis gets taken down. And it is a for one so far. They might be able to find a third. The Stormbringer away from Kinga. The Undertow is able to find his mark, but so well played by Jonas there.
That it was super well. Getting 2 kills for himself, all things said, and I think Tingar was able to get the other one. So I think all things said, it ended up being a 3 for 2. Really well responded to by the side of Your Nurse, especially because the roam from Pure Genesis had come out slightly later than him. So there's no real push in the mid lane to speak of. And now Tonzo gets free time on the top tower. The later and later that this game goes, the better and better the Silas becomes, not only for stealing the Ornn ultimate, but also for the damage that he brings to the table. And likely will be the point of contention. If Rift Herald goes over, top tower is an easy target.
And speaking of Ornn, I want to talk about itemization, Rebel, because Thornmail was the first pickup from Guanyu. Into a Silas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's why. All of Silas's abilities give him additional attack speed and the AoE that you see, which is really big. And the big thing about Bramble Vest is not only does it prevent that by utilizing auto attacks, denying at least a little bit of the damage, it's not for the damage reduction, it's for the healing reduction. Because all of those autos have to be weaved in for the full damage output of Silas, which means when the W comes through and he's expecting this massive 500, 600 health re-heal, getting him back into the fight, able to make a turn, it's just not going to be there. Because the Bramble Vest is preventing that by making sure that those autos keep him honest.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that healing reduction. Rift Herald is up, and Striking Vipers are keeping an eye on that as Tingar is going to try to clear out as much vision as he can.
That he is. Finally a Rift Herald play, which is something I've been waiting for the entire game, just to make some sort of cross-map play happen. A lot of the vision allotment currently for the set of Striking Vipers is in that bottom river. They have a backing Morn, which apparently just does not know where anybody else is on the map right now, and they're not able to read this because of the timing of it. Yasuo is unfortunately stuck on bottom side here, trying to clear up against the Lucian, but since it's a Yuumi, there's not too much better of the 2v1 happening. Pure Genesis is coming down here to attempt to punish this. If he can prevent this from happening... Oh, no. Oh, okay. I was worried. Didn't happen.
I was worried as well, but Dylan deciding to play safe. Here are the dives that I wanted to see. The shackles come through, and Tingar will take the kill. 5-0 on the volley bear as the first turret goes away of World Class Galaxy.
That does. And they have Rift Herald as well if they want to continue this. They're just going to push battle up against this team. There's only 2 minions here, which actually worries me a little bit. They're going to catch their way. Okay, it's going to come in perfectly in time to make sure no one tanks it. But they have a lot more momentum currently on the side of World Class Galaxy, where they're going to be able to break this tower and probably get a charge on the inhibitor tower, especially if Jorner is able to find
says hello. Not going to be able to find the full spell rotation, but can look to go in once again. Shelly will be able to charge onto the inner turret, and World Class Galaxy are happy with that. They can now look for the reset. Drake up in 35 seconds.
Shut down completely across the map there. So Rift Herald goes the way of World Class. Here are all the things Striking Viper wanted. Either A, you get your top laner out. Guanyu ended up dying to a 4-man. That's bad. Bottom lane, you don't get the dive to happen. You do get the flash from D-Lun, but don't get much else. You expend all 4 members to try to match the pressure being put on the top side of the map. You lose a tower, and then also 2/3 of your inhibitor tower, which puts a lot of pressure on split push if Silas chooses to go a little bit more for side lane, or even LeBlanc chooses to go for a little bit more side lane in the later stages of the game. Really, really good macro decisions from the side of World Class Galaxy. Give them not a significant gold lead, but a significant lead nonetheless.
I do not know how the event horizon did not clip Tingar there. I was 100% sure he got clipped, but Tingar is a lucky little bear, and clearly Vega has a soft spot for Teddy's.
Does. Really, really good positioning here, though, for the Dragon coming out from the side of Striking Vipers. They're pushing this team completely out, and yes, there's 5 members, but they have complete river control at the moment, which, again, that kind of benefits late-game variant of World Class Galaxy, but at the moment, I don't think it's necessary to stay it out.
World Class Galaxy, they call the bluff. They just push during the mid lane. Tingar backs off, and Jonas is going to try to clear some vision around Drake and just take a look at the minion wave that is slowly starting to push topside. Tomzo, whenever he wants, can just drop the TP top and maybe even take the inhibitor turret as Striking Vipers. They finally start on the Drake, and this is just going to be a trade of a Cloud Drake for a turret and maybe a bit more, actually.
Now, I'm happy to do a lot of the analysis for you, but I don't care to. That was just a really bad trade.
You don't have the time to, Rebel.
I know, yeah, look at that. I get it. Apparently I do, because the Ornn ultimate just immediately gets blocked. Okay, they just burn everything trying to fight there. They have absolutely no sticks to stand on, right? Tingar can even ultimate out of this situation, and they still win by a massive margin.
still on the front for our Striking Vipers, but they're going to have to back off as Morn has to be careful. Sky Splitter will not be able to connect, and well, Class Galaxy, I think they're fairly content with how that one went.
I would be too. You get mid tower in exchange for Cloud Rick. Now this is an ultimate.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ethereal Chains do damage.
That they do, especially with those the Q marks, being able to pop quite a bit there. It feels like through a heal and still got over half of his health bar. It's astonishing.
It is ever so slightly disgusting, but okay, I feel like I owe the coach of World Class Galaxy an apology, and maybe you do too, Rebel. I don't know if you pointed this one out, but we talked about how Striking Vipers, you know, they have this composition that they press R, and you can't disengage if you're World Class Galaxy. I completely forgot that there's a wind wall that just stops the entire Ornn ultimate.
Yes, there's that. That's about all. And that shouldn't also
True.
be the only thing that is contingent here for the engage coming through. You saw in that last fight, yes, the Ornn ultimate got blocked, but there were more tools to use in the likes of the Olaf ultimate and the Yuumi ultimate. Problem is, they're using them completely out of position, which again, this was the whole purpose. It was like, if you use the wind wall to block the Ornn ultimate, Glacial Augment, Twin Shadows might have been an option, something like that for Pure Genesis to set something up, but then he doesn't go for that, goes for Electrocute, which helped for that bot lane kill, but outside of that has not had the same kind of effect that I think you wanted.
Kinga says hello to Goo on you. The Ethereal Chains get dropped, and there is no way out for the Hammer Master. And I think Goo on you, he practically gave up by the end. I don't think he had the will to fight anymore.
Actually got midlane
Okay.
fight.
There's a Mad Viking, Wild Growth, flash away, the turret shots come through. Dylan will find a kill, but he'll pay for his sins with his life. TPs are getting dropped. Kinga on the run, finds the CT, good flash from Pure Genesis. Stormbringer over the wall, and in comes the damage. Your nurse won't be able to get the kill. Tinga takes another one, his sixth of the game, but once again is World Class Galaxy who come out on top.
Way too far up. They burn the Olaf ultimate, they burn the Yuumi ultimate, they burned so much early on in this fight, just trying to get a pick on Lulu. Yes, they find Dylan, but he immediately got a trade for Morn, and then the rest of the fight, there's not much you can do. Yeah, you got Ornn ultimate, but that's about all you have, and he wasn't anywhere near the fight. Really, really good job playing with these timings here for the side of World Class Esports, or World Class Galaxy, my apologies. If they are able to kind of prevent the full engage from coming through here, it's tough for Striking Vipers to find any ground to stand on.
Now, as the Baron is getting taken, McTrump is here. 3.5k on the Baron. This is not said and done. This is not written in stone. Call of the Forge got denied by the wind wall instantly, and World Class Galaxy, they're forced to back off, and that's about a minute of their time just completely wasted.
I can at least appreciate the fact that they were willing to pull off that. A lot of teams where they would just like double down, they'd say we can finish it, and maybe lose a fight afterwards, maybe lose pressure on the map afterwards. Instead, they choose for a full reset. I'm a little shocked that there's no punishment coming through from the side of Striking Vipers. However, I do want to point this out. I've been waiting to get a chance to talk about this. Lucian is currently sitting on Manamune, which is a very strong item, especially for late game. Lucian applies it very, very well, but early game Lucian is not stronger with Manamune. It's a very bad early game item for him. Yes, you usually have pretty good strength. With the likes of the Yuumi, you can get through that early game with a Manamune, and not until late will you really start to feel the effects. The mid game, once 2-3 items come in, you're going to see a massive difference in the damage from Lucian, but until then, not hitting anywhere near as hard as maybe Blade of the Rune King, Black Cleaver, Essence Reaver, any of those could have been.
If anyone from Riot is listening, can you please nerf Manamune so I don't have to see non-Ezreal / Senna champs building this item?
I mean, when you get it fully stacked, it's exceptionally strong. I do think that there's legitimate testing that needs to be done for ADCs that are not named Ezreal to stack it, or itemizations maybe. I think there's more of a market necessarily for people who can build tier start and then go to more aggressive itemization to stack your tier first, then go Manamune, unlike Lucian, who just likes to finish it immediately, and I think maybe that's the route that has to be gone. You don't see that on Lucian, which means the early game is a lot weaker. I would have rather saw, especially if he was doing something like this, you know, Essence Reaver, something alongside it, Blade of the Rune King alongside it, to have early game damage alongside the stacking of the tier.
We do have a Drake up, and it is going to be the Cloud. This could be the third for Striking Vipers, and well, I say third, not the third Cloud Drake, the third Drake, and the first Cloud Drake for the side of World Class Galaxy. But while we say that, Yuna split pushing in the top lane, has a TP available, so does Gu on you. And we start the final chapter. Will come through along with the Ragnarok. Dylan is taken down. Who can win the smite fight? Tonzo super low. Will go golden, and the fight will surely go the way of Striking Vipers. Tonzo gets taken down, and the Drake goes over to the Vipers.
Notice how, if you're on the side of World Class, if you are at an objective first and you commit to the pit fight, you're going to lose because of pure Genesis, because of the damage that comes through from Morn when he throws on the ultimate with Yumi on top of him. It's really easy. They didn't even have Gu on you there. They didn't need the Ornn ultimate. They were able to win it without it because there's no space for them to work with when that box gets thrown up, and you saw that very, very first thing.
Here we go again. There's no Yasuo to deny the call of the Forge God. A Fly gets taken down, swatted aside by Morn. 10 kills to 10. However, World Class Galaxy, they do deny the Baron.
They do. They're able to prevent that from coming through. They're able to get a little bit of pressure back on the top side of the map, and they're still in a good place. 2,000 gold need a lot of pressure, especially in towers across the map. That top lane still kind of right on the edge of losing your inhibitor tower here for the side of Striking Vipers. The problem now is you see 2 Cloud Drakes on a very ult-driven team, which you've been pushing a majority of the game. You can now throw out Ornn ultimates a lot more kind of haphazardly. You can throw the Ragnarok much more defensively. You can use the last chapter. There's so many good things here coming through from the Cloud Drake control coming out here on the side of Striking Vipers. If they get the third one, they get the movement speed, there's a lot of problems that are going to start coming the way of World Class Galaxy.
So I'm just going to clarify one thing. It's final chapter. It's not last. This isn't an item we're talking about here, Rebel.
That's Lost Chapter.
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
No, I said last chapter. And I know it's final chapter, which is different, but I knew it was
a synonym. It is a synonym.
It's close enough. It's close enough. I don't know. I'm not an expert of Yumi's. I don't claim to be.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely... Yumi's not like my most played champion in ranked or anything. No.
Somebody check his op.gg for me, please.
Sorry, you don't remember my account name, do you? So it's all good. It's all good.
I bet my producer does, though.
Our producer does. My producer plays on my League of Legends team that we play in Gold Elo games. However, oh no, the Lulu caught out. Fly once again taken down. Pure Genesis takes a kill. And we've talked about how the side of Striking Vipers, they've got the scaling. And, well, they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. They get the second turret of the game. Jonas goes in. Look how much damage he took in about half a second. D-Learner caught on the turret. The final chapter is coming through. It won't be the final breath for Tinga, but it was a 4D Learner. Striking Vipers, they strike hard, and now they can look to strike the Baron.
It's tough. It really is starting to become very tough for the side of World Class Galaxy. They need a little bit more river control in terms of vision, but they can't push in out of fear of pure Genesis, out of Morn, out of Guan Yu, out of any of their champions, getting some sort of pick potential onto the lane.
Oh, look at the TP.
Tonzo's going to try for this, but I think it's going to be very hard for us to try to get
I believe Tonzo. He steps right into the event horizon. 1,500. Stormbringer, but no steal. Tinga might finally die. Call of the Forge God comes in, and the shutdown goes over onto McTrump. Tonzo will drop the Call of the Forge God. Has to be careful as the rest of World Class are showing up, but they will not be able to engage. Keep an eye on Yodas, trying to spot out McTrump as he does drop the vision. Still on the chase, but he's going to have to back out at the end.
At the moment, World Class Galaxy, they're struggling to capitalize on the tower pressure, especially that they've gotten in top lane to put down vision. And so because of that, you saw the pickoff coming down on the fly. Your vision's gone, and one of the best ways you have to generate a Yasuo ultimate in that kind of overgrowth coming out here, or wild growth, my apologies, that's the issue, is that you don't have the Yasuo entrance. And now, you also don't have a lot of defenses that you've got. Morn might be in trouble. He pops the Ragnarok. No punishment, double Cloud Trick means he's going to get that back any second now.
Yep. However, that Ragnarok is down, and while that will take... Actually, never mind. Drake's up in 50 seconds. He's got enough time. For some reason, I thought the Drake was up in about 10 seconds. And that could be Cloud Soul as well for the side of Striking Vipers. What I do want to bring up, World Class Galaxy, I feel that they've been going 1-4 most of the time. And Striking Vipers just say, okay, we'll just put Guan Yu in the silent Imachu. But I've never seen the 1-3-1 coming through from World Class Galaxy, where they can utilize the fact that they have one extra TP.
Yes, and not to mention you pull pure Genesis out into a side lane as opposed to anybody else, and you could be in a really good position to try to capitalize on the fact that the Vigar can't catch that person without something like the Twin Shadows, something like the GLP. This is an interesting concept here. It looks like the side of World Class, they're going to sack third Dragon here and give away Cloud Dragon's soul in exchange for mid lane push and maybe actually look for quite a bit. They're going to be able to get one tower, and it's all of the side of Striking Vipers that are going to make this, so they're really trying to push that pressure and gold control in the mid game, just trying to make sure that they have that as opposed to the Cloud Soul.
Fortune favors the bold. World Classic Galaxy definitely being bold, but whether that was the Galaxy-sized brain move, we will have to wait and see. Cloud Soul goes the way of Striking Vipers. A big ult down cooldown, big ult cooldowns, and now the movement speed as well with the ult cast.
It's going to be a lot tougher here. And they've already been finding picks on the side of Striking Vipers that are coming through. And now, also, I'll talk to this. McTrump, early game, not strong. Had the Manamune. Look at him now. Yep. He has the Infinity Edge, the Essence Reaver, the upgraded Essence Reaver to Molten Edge, which gives a lot more. And then look at that Manamune as well. 70 attack damage, plus you've got the on-hit of a ridiculous amount of that mana with the Essence Reaver being generated. So much single target damage.
Into the event horizon goes Tingar, Stormbringer away, but he's just going to get run down. The exhaust does nothing. Striking Vipers, once again, they strike hard. Pure Genesis will get taken down. The culling stolen, hijacked by Tonzo, if you will make it a 2-4-2. The health bars are too low. Striking Vipers, they'll take an inhibitor of their own.
So far, I continue to see the side of Striking Vipers, and they're capitalizing very well on their composition, finding the pickups, finding the rundowns that they need to really generate the plays that they've needed, especially as the game has progressed a little bit longer.
Oh, look at the TP.
That's really good. Yornus is going to find a really deep angle here from Warren. Oh!
Ragnarok is available. And the slow from the undertow. Yornus will not be able to find the pick, and now both the inhibitors in the mid lane have been destroyed. If you're the side of World Class Galaxy, things have not been going great for you. What do you do to get back into this?
It's very, very tough to try to get back into this. I think you postulated a potential solution, which is the 1-3-1 coming out. I think you do need to pull somebody that is... You need to pull Pure Genesis out of a fight, because he's really tough. But I think also a very big problem that you're not addressing at the moment is the Olaf, who is exceptionally strong. The Warrior Black Cleaver, combined with Spirit Visage, and then what will be likely a Righteous Glory to be able to get him into fights a lot faster, is like just tearing through this team, pretty much top to bottom. And no one's really able to put enough damage into him fast enough to get through, especially with the Yuumi attached to him. So they need... Tonzo maybe needs to focus on getting that the Vigar ultimate and just popping him as fast as possible to get him out of a fight. The other issue is they don't have range to work with for the most part. Because of that Vigar cage, Yornus is struggling to try to find really good flank angles to get people in the back line. You see him, running plays like this where he's out of vision trying to find something, but there's no consistent DPS to fight the Lucian, to fight the Vigar, even if they got the right situation where they're able to find somebody to attack.
And Jonas can try to look for a flank, but when it's Goo on you, well, Goo on you will just win the trade hands down. The Void Staff has been completed for Jonas, and for Pure Genesis, actually the exact same build coming through from both mid laners. And I'm sure Goo on you, he's waiting to upgrade a certain Rabadon's Death Cap for Pure Genesis once he does start to build it up.
It does. And once that item is completed, I mean, you're talking the amount of AP that you can have on Pure Genesis. I mean, at this point, you're talking like, is it 500 plus AP with the itemization and the average of what you would expect him to get with a lot of those stacking mechanisms. So you throw Rabadon's in, he's going to be sitting at 800, 900 AP.
Now, my favorite insect that exists, a worm, will be spawning soon. However, Jonas will be despawning because he's going to get wiped down by Morn. The final outer turret of the game does get secured in the top side by Striking Vipers. Tonzo could look to trade on a Q on you, and he will do so. But Baron up in 10 seconds time. That's going to get secured. Call of the Forge God coming through. Good sidestep, but the Kingslayer won't be able to find his mark. Searing Charge gets a drop, and the stopwatch comes out from Tonzo. Q on you. The healing from Tonzo, and it's just classic Wet Noodle fight. The fight's just still going on. It's been a good 20 seconds. Tonzo trying his best to sidestep. Searing Charge will find the kill. Crowding projectile in, and that is the Olaf movement speed. Wild Growth will do something, but but not enough. Kinga getting run down. The culling comes through. Another kill for the side of Striking Vipers, and now they can look for the Baron once again.
And I think at this point, we're going to start talking about what happens in game number 2. I know there's ways right now for the side of World Class Galaxy to come back, but it feels like slowly the scaling is coming in, the execution is coming in, and Striking Vipers are really starting to take advantage of their composition and all of the strengths that come along with it. Not to mention, you talk about the prospect of 1-3-1. We haven't seen Yorners really be able to pop either one of these two members in the mid or the top lane at all. And then you saw right there, Tonzo, if he's auto-attacking, he can't beat Go on You. And if he's not auto-attacking, he doesn't have the DPS to get through his health bar fast enough. They're in a really bad situation. Worst case scenario here, if this Baron isn't their demise, they just push out mid, they push out bot, they go to Elder Drake, they take any fight they want because they immediately win it with their ult cooldown, with their movement speed, and with the Elder Dragon buff. This is way too easy. This is kind of a walk in the park here for Striking Vipers.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are in a situation where a Volibear beat Olaf early game, and then the Olaf won late game. I don't know, that just seems really counterintuitive to me. But
I want you to watch the terms of winning and losing. Tingar got good early game ganks, collected a couple of really solid plays in that regard, and had some good team fights. Morn always power farmed really well, always had a little bit of an advantage in terms of gold itemization, and then also had the late game scaling of the Yuumi, who's now sitting on an upgraded Redemption, by the way, worst item that you can upgrade, combined with an Ardent Censer and an Unfiend's Unholy Grail. This support itemization, this Enchanter in terms of the Yuumi, is just super powering. This already very strong Olaf doesn't always have the best late game with the Yuumi attached to it. It's a lot stronger.
So, Tonzo gets locked down, taken down to half HP. Now, Elder, this is it. This is the moment of a truth. Do Striking Vipers, will they be able to win the game? Or do World Class have a chance back in? Because if they get the Elder Drake, my god, this game is most certainly over. In goes Tingar, but he's not going to be able to find the steal. Final chapter gets dropped, and Kinney gets his first kill of the game. Fly gets taken down. A backdoor of sorts is being attempted by Dylan. They'll be able to get the inhibitor, but that is all. And now Striking Vipers, they look towards the bot side, and they look to crack open the base for the second time.
Holding this is going to be very near impossible for the side of World Class Galaxy. They have a lot of engage to work with. They still have the Viga. I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm curious whether or not Pure Genesis can just throw his ultimate at somebody, and if it kills them with the Elden Dragon execution, I would not be shocked to see that come through. But you still have to worry about Morn's consistent damage. You have to worry about the burst damage coming out from the likes of Trump and Go on You. All of that.
Oh my god. Yorners taken down. Tonzo will heal up. He goes golden, but just because you climb to gold doesn't mean you're not going to fall all the way back down to iron, which does happen to Tonzo. Striking Vipers. Stormbringer comes through. There's the last breath, but will it be his last? Yes, it will, because Dylan gets taken down. Timigar will follow suit. Another going the way of Striking Vipers. Fly will get taken down. Guan Yu, he's just flexing his muscles. The Nexus turrets will fall. Game 1 will be going the way of Striking Vipers. A strong start from World Class Galaxy, but it wasn't enough, and now they can look for the 2-0.
The mid game was there from the side of World Class Galaxy. Their early game was really potent. I thought they got a little bit of a lead, and then they expanded that with a lot of really solid macro play. The problem was I think they lost sight of their execution on their composition coming into mid game, or maybe even worse, they lost sight of the execution coming through from Striking Vipers, put themselves in really rough situations where they weren't able to take proper fights necessarily, and because of that, they just ended up losing fight after fight, and they got snowballed against really, really hard.
Yep. Well, game 1, it does go the way of Striking Vipers. Quickly, Rebel, what would you like to see World Class Galaxy do differently heading into game 2?
I'd like to see a ranged bottom laner. I really do think that. I don't think that necessarily the Yasuo was the issue, but there's that. So.
And we do kind of see that in the damage graphs as well. The amount of damage, 35,000 from McTrump, and that's with taking the Muramana or the Mana Mune as his first item. Absolutely disgusting. So yeah, maybe Dylan playing an actual ADC. We'll have to find out though. We're going to be heading into a short break. We'll be right back with game 2 of the night. Stay tuned.
Just walk right out the door. Don't wanna do this anymore. Now I'm lost without you. You drive me crazy out my mind. How'd you do this every time? Now I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I talk to when I'm sad. Can't you see now tainted love is all we have? Our issues run so deep. Now when I try to sleep I feel so bad. I should leave, and by the time it's done I'll be gone.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready for game 2 of the night. World Class Galaxy taking on Striking Vipers. Striking Vipers are looking to continue what is essentially their gauntlet run all the way from round 1 of losers bracket. And Rebel, they've looked unstoppable so far.
That they have. They looked really good in game number 2. We talked about a little bit their ease of execution. Their draft was very, very strong in game number 1. I do think part of that was due to the fact, of course, that World Class Galaxy, they were running their mid laner in the bot lane. He didn't have your standard marksman potentially as the pool necessarily to work with. And now we're going to get the chance to see the full power version of what World Class Galaxy can bring with Osama stepping back into the bottom lane.
Set Zach, Caitlyn, Vega bans coming through. Good to see that Vega getting banned away from Pure Genesis, something that we thought would come through. To be honest, I want to see, now that Dylan is back in the mid lane and we have Osama in the ADC role to replace iGlory, I want to see those Kiana picks. I want to see that Syndra pick. I want to see this aggression from Dylan to make amends for whatever that performance on the Yasuo was.
Certainly something to consider, that you go for more of the team fight. That is seemed to be his style. Things like the Orianna, the Syndra, and the, of course, as you had pointed out, the Kiana coming out to be potential. Not to mention things like the Nico could also come out if they need more consistent DPS. The Cassiopeia seems to be something that he goes to. They banned out the Syndra here for the side of Striking Vipers.
Yeah, that no ban from Striking Vipers is indeed a Syndra. The Olaf getting taken away as well. No run it at you composition this time from Striking Vipers, although I'm sure they could figure a way around it. The Volley Bear, though, will get blind picked.
Interesting, especially because Ezreal is up potentially for the side of Osama to take, so they could go for more of a bot lane focused strategy with something aggressive. You can go Aphelios, you can go anything at the moment that's really good at team fighting and play to that.
Something that gives you dives.
Something that gives you dives. They tried that last.
I want dives.
Holy bear.
It didn't work. They lost.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Why would you play something with dives? Okay, the Wukong is something. There you go. You got the Wukong to join you.
No, wait. What? Never mind. Wukong, Karma. Give me a center as well. Put the Karma top. Wukong center. I'm down for it.
Wukong.
Give it to me.
I wouldn't be shocked, actually. I think Osama does play a fair amount of the Senna.
No.
I think that's really good as well. Yeah, the Karma getting locked in here. The Karma's higher priority than the Senna. That's just an absolute. You don't need to pick Senna right here. The Wukong can still be thrown into the top lane, can be thrown into that supporter AD role, depending on what you have if you want the Senna in your back pocket. And the Karma can be flexed to top, mid, support, whatever you want it to be right now. There's plenty of flexibility with what they just did. They got much higher priority picks than picking Senna first overall.
Oh no. Why do I feel like we're going to see Senna Maokai? I have a feeling that this might end up being Maokai support. However, I'll hope that I get pleasantly surprised and that this will be a Wukong Maokai in the top lane. The Karma pick is big, and do you think we're going to be seeing an Ashe pairing up with it?
We could be. It depends on what they grab. Okay, so it's the Kai'Sa potentially paired with the Maokai. I think that's good to set up the plasma stacks for Kai'Sa, but the laning phase itself is something that can be exploited, especially if you grab Karma for the bottom side of the map. That shielding is really, really good to try to prevent the Maokai burst combined with Kai'Sa, and you can go something more lane dominant if you really want. Instead, they're going to go directly to Vayne, low range, expensive, to the likes of the Kai'Sa and the
Okay.
Maokai. I'm not in love with that right now, just because I don't think the lack of range is helping them all that much, but we'll see what the game plan is, I suppose.
All I'm gonna say is if this is a Maokai top, it's gonna be Vayne top, Wukong Karma bot.
Wukong Karma Pod.
Feel free to at me.
I'm going to go ahead and at you on that. I think there's more
Cool.
definitive game plan right now coming out from the side of striking Vipers. If they throw the Maokai top lane, I don't think you flex the Vayne that hard. I don't think Vayne is that bad into Kai'Sa. They're both relatively low range. My problem becomes more so that Kai'Sa has to be able to get that Q upgrade very quickly, and so I want to see Essence Reaver into Serrated Dirk if you're going to go something like that. And the Vayne is much more consistent damage focus, so I want something that helps contribute to that. I want a more aggressive support, and I'd rather see Karma in a different lane.
I'm also really liking the Nautilus and Leona bans, taking away, there's a turret dive potential rebel away from the Volibear. See, world class know what's up.
Yeah, also, Nautilus Leona have been the top of the sport tier list for 7 months,
Kai'Sa.
so maybe that's the problem also with
Whoa,
the
whoa,
guys.
whoa. Did you just say Leona and Nautilus are the best supports right now?
There's some of them, absolutely. Nautilus is
There's some of them.
absolutely there.
I mean,
Yeah, Nautilus
they're
is literally
not
number one.
Karma.
Of course they're not Karma, but Nautilus
Or
gets picked
Lulu.
more than Karma does. Nautilus gets picked more than Lulu does.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't matter if the champion gets picked more. It doesn't make it better.
Then why would it get picked more?
I don't even know. Timo gets picked. It's not because it's a good champion.
In competitive play, Nautilus is a better champion objectively.
I mean, not if you've got an Aphelios.
I don't even want to get into the discussion that we're having right now. Let's get back
Never
to the
mind.
draft
Yes.
thing. How about that?
Kassadin Sejuani. I like Kassadin. I said that I wanted to. Well, I said I wanted to see Dylan on something fun. We still have to wait and see if that comes through. But I'll take a Kassadin. The Braum as well. It's going to be a Maokai top. Please put the Vayne top there.
You please put the Vayne top lane. I'm really curious if they're actually willing to do something like that. I don't think Vayne is as good into Maokai as she is into other specific matchups. The Janna does not shock me. That does imply that, of course, Karma's going to a solo lane. The Sejuani implies Wukong's going to a solo lane, unless, of course, the Karma's flexed into ADC. But I think, my friend, we're
Yes.
going to end up seeing the Vayne Janna bot side.
Okay. There's only one thing I dislike more than getting proved wrong on stream. And that's Karma going into solo lanes.
Why do you dislike Karma going to solo lane?
Because it doesn't do anything. It's just saying, for me, it just feels like a statement. It feels like a statement from whoever plays Karma in a solo lane or from the team saying, we know we can't win a lane, so we're just going to intentionally lose the lane.
See, I'm actually on the exact opposite foot, which is
Right, okay.
they say we can't win the lane with something aggressive. So we're going to win the lane with a champion that just auto wins the lane because you've got a ton of wave clear, you've got really good early damage, you've got great shielding, and it doesn't really matter if you have the best CS or anything. Your itemization is so cheap on solo lane Karma. You can keep up or even be massively ahead in terms of itemization compared to your opponent. It doesn't matter if you're down 20, 30 CS at any given point in the game. Not to mention your roaming potential with that clear of your Q, that old Q coming through, makes you such a presence in the river. It's much easier for Sejuani to walk in and try to abuse matchups, to try to get invades, to try to get neutral objectives.
All I'm going to say is I would much rather see something that scales like a Vladimir, etc., etc. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Instead of a Karma. I don't know. It's just... I love Karma as a support. If you want to put her as an ADC, sure. But as a solo lane, I don't know. It just... You're just not doing anything. And it just... I'd rather see Soraka solo lane.
You'd rather see Soraka. Soraka does the exact same thing that Karma does. I don't understand how
Yes, but here's the thing. Soraka won't be completely useless when you get to the late game, whereas Karma will.
Oh my goodness. I would be disgusted. So somebody in the chat suggested potentially that it's going to be Karma Janna bot lane with Vayne mid lane into Kassadin, and if that happened, I would throw up legitimately. The last time we saw Karma Janna in a lane, if I recall, was it was like mid 2017 when they nerfed a bunch of ADCs and Reckless took Karma with a Janna as a support as well in the bottom lane. You remember that meta of all ADCs got nerfed to just beyond realm, and they were going to mages, and so Reckless went directly to Karma, and they were playing Karma Janna bot. Oh, Disgusting.
Okay, in all seriousness, though, why do I keep saying that word? I know I can't say it.
Mhm.
This Wukong is going to be going mid into the Kassadin.
In all seriousness, you think Wukong's going to be going into the Casa? You're putting way too much faith in the fact that they're going to be moving around trying to get these champions better matchups. I don't think it's unrealistic to think that.
I mean, why would you put Karma into Kassadin? It's a free lane for him.
I suppose, unless you really want mid lane pressure.
Okay.
If you want to wave clear with the likes of the Karma, you want to push Kassadin under tower all game. And yes, he gets a relatively free lane where he's not really under risk of dying, but you completely control the rest of the map. And then you have like late game Karma Janna to protect a late game Vayne into Kassadin, which I think you could at least make an argument is at least comparable in terms of scaling, if not better in terms of scaling.
Okay, I can give you that. Karma with Vayne is good. But all I'm going to say is Striking Vipers are going to win this game. You can't change my mind. I'm going to say that no matter how far behind they are in game, which isn't going to happen because they're going to win the game, because it does appear that World Class are putting Karma into Kassadin because they have seen the power of Kassa win, and they've decided, you know what? Let's just take a useless champion and put it into the Kassadin so that you can scale up and get Kassa win, and that Kassa bin never exists. It's literally the sketch that LEC did with Draco's Way. It's like the first 15 levels. Listen to this guy talking about the first 15 levels. Like, it's a common, the first 15 levels don't exist.
I just you're hatred.
You
for
hate me
Karma
right
Janna.
now.
I'm gonna give a small bit of hope to you, which I probably
Yeah.
shouldn't do. Recall that players can actually move lanes, so Osama could be the Vayne player,
Okay.
and D-Lun might not be, so we could still see Vayne flexed into another lane. I still highly doubt that. I want to
Yeah.
look at individual lane matchups. If you look early in the game, Wukong's perfectly fine in the Maokai. I don't think it solo kills the Maokai, but it does really well. And it probably, especially if you go Tiamat on Wukong or Blade of the Ruin King,
Right.
you have more than enough pressure to beat Maokai in the laning phase.
Okay.
Karma controls the lane. As much as you want to say Karma's a
True.
terrible
Yeah,
champion, get to the castle win. Laning
Hands
phase,
up, yeah.
all Karma. Absolutely,
Mhm.
100%. Then Vayne Janna, I don't think outright just beats it, again, like the Wukong, but they should have enough pressure to control the river. So then it comes down to Sejuani versus Volibear, but Sejuani has better lanes early. And you've got late game Vayne combined with the CC, the damage from Wukong Sejuani, and the support from Karma Janna. That's the whole game plan here. They win early and then take a super late game ADC to fight against a later game composition with Kai'Sa, Kassadin, and Maokai, who don't win the laning phase. I think that's the intention here of their composition.
Here's how I do see this current storyline of the game. Both teams have two carries. The side of Striking Vipers, they have two hyper carries, and the side of World Class, they have one hyper carry. And then I feel like you've got almost an age-old argument. What do you want to protect your carries? Do you want tanks or do you want enchanters?
You got you got a good point there in that we're going to see two very different styles of gameplay in this one. And we've got Maokai, we've got Volibear, and then we've got Kassadin with Braum and Kai'Sa, where that's a very forward fighting team. Maokai wants to get into backline, Volibear wants to jump into backline, Kassadin wants to find backline threats with his ultimate, Kai'Sa wants to jump into a team fight with Braum and be able to get those passive stacks, all of that going down. So it's a 5-person fight where they're going to jump in and they're going to do their best to cause disruption. On the other side, it's about playing front to back. Can Tonzo get to backline, get onto Kai'Sa, get onto Braum, disrupt them with his ultimate? Can Sejuani buy space for Vayne to be able to fire onto Kassadin, onto Maokai, and kill those members quick enough? And can Janna and Karma provide the peel, provide all of the necessary defenses for Vayne to not just get blown up by Pure Genesis, to get blown up by Kai'Sa when she wants to jump in? It's very interesting and it's very intricate. The laning phase likely goes to the side of World Class Galaxy. I don't think that's set in stone. And the late game, I think we're definitely getting to at least 25-30 minutes in this one. And if we get to that point, it's going to be really intriguing to see what these two teams come up with.
But with that said and done, we're going to be heading into a short break. First up, though, a quick message from our sponsors over at Kono Keyboard. If you are looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have got you covered. Kono works with the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. Kono have been huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pools. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out the Hexagears X1 RGB low-profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. You can use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. And with that, we're going to be heading into a short break, and we'll be right back with game 2 of the night. Stay tuned.
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm a fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh, go on, just do what you do.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we make our way onto the rift for game 2 of the night. Striking out Vipers over on the blue side, World Class Galaxy over on the red side. The storyline heading into this, Dylan back into the mid lane, and it's Osama in the ADC position for the side of World Class Galaxy. Dylan, he plays the Kiana, he plays the Syndra, he plays the Spicy Champions, but this game, he's playing Karma.
That he is. Going to be a little bit more of the negation agent here, trying to make sure that the Kassadin can't do anything early on an already relatively weak champion. I know your feelings on that very strongly already. It's been expressed multiple times. I do think that a lot of the early game does come down to the junglers, and I think in terms of just general priority, maybe bot lane is the one place where there's competition here. I think Striking Vipers can make the play towards bot side with the likes of the Braum and the Kai'Sa. So Morn, if it were me, I would head down towards there. I don't think you get much with Kassadin. You do have the damage maybe to kill off something like the Wukong top lane as well. So I would expect Morn to play more to side lanes, which means that D-Lane really has to get active and get out on the map. I want to see a lot of quick wave clear. I do have a problem. He didn't take what are they called? The items, Minion Dematerializer. Absolutely necessary if you're going to be playing mid lane Karma, especially opposed to something that you want to wave clear really quickly against.
Now, in all seriousness, oh my god, I said it right this time. I'm so happy. But in all seriousness, something that you did mention is Osama is a really good at ADC, and World Class Galaxy, they put their faith in him taking the Karma in the mid lane, and this is going to be a case of who can carry harder, Osama or Pure Genesis / McTrumpers. Goo on you. This is a dirty. They collapse straight away on fly. They want to get gold onto McTrump, and they get gold on him for sure.
Well, they really hard opted for that. That is so the really unique play that comes out here, actually, in my mind, it's not just the level 1 play from Gu on You, which you can say what you want about how good that play is going to end up being in the long run. More specifically, though, the rotation of Pure Genesis to the top lane, having expected D-Lun to go top to deal with Gu on You, now getting the lane matchups you actually prefer. We talked about we'd rather see Karma in the top lane against the Maokai and see the Wukong potentially be able to take advantage of the lane up against something like the Kassadin, and we're not going to get that because they predicted it here on the side of Striking Vipers.
And this makes me so happy in multiple ways. It means World Class Galaxy, they know that they needed to send, they knew that they didn't want to play Karma into Kassadin. They knew it was a wrong from the get-go. So I'm glad that I haven't gone insane. And I'm also super glad because Striking Vipers, they've been mega 400 IQ Giga Brain. As Morn getting caught out, this might not be the Giga Brain play from him. The collapse that comes through, the turnaround, 1-4-1. But look who is on his way down. It's a monkey with a staff. Oh, the crushing blow will come through. Or I should say the Nimbus Strike, and you will be able to survive just a 1-for-1 in the jungle.
Really well played. Another issue is that the wave crashes in the mid lane, so Karma's not going to be able to hook up every single minion. And so far, the early game, they've ramped tempo here on the side of Striking Vipers. If they kind of stay complacent, I do think that their lanes settle on a place where they're not really comfortable with where they're at. So instead, they're generating these fights. They're generating some of the momentum in the mid and everything else. And now Tanzo, really rough place. Now Kassadin's going to be able to find them in translation. This is really rough.
The TP comes through. Thompson's getting taken down really low. Will be able to use a decoy. Pure Genesis on the back of foot. The Twisted Advance comes through. Now they look for Thompson. Flash it forward. Flash away. Oh my god, Rebel. We have a game on our hands.
Like I said, if this game goes to pure stalemate, and if you see everything else just completely on even ground, early game goes the way of World Class Galaxy, and it helps set them up. So what do? They just prevent that from ever happening. They're walking through the river with rotations, somehow catch Tanzo for some reason sitting in the river instead of just perma-pushing these lanes, making sure they can't collect all the CS that they want. This is such an interesting game plan coming out from Striking Vipers.
Okay, and I'm being fully serious here, but can we get the, the clown music playing, the because right now, what's happened about, oh no, we've got another fight, Wolf's going in on the bottom, Fly gets obliterated. This fight will not be able to find Osama, but to go back to the point I was mentioning before, we have seen D-Lun, Tonzo, and Pure Genesis. They've rotated between mid and top about 5 times, with the Tonzo trying to go to Pure Genesis, and Pure Genesis just constantly rotating. It's never ending.
That is good, because they understand lane matchup, but I don't like that for a few reasons. I'm going to wait for
Osama, the Ignite, the concussive blows come through. McTrump on a killing spree. 3-0 on the Kai'Sa Rebel. You don't have any chance to talk, I'm sorry.
You're fine. It's tough. The early advantage here is easily going the way of Striking Vipers, and I really don't think it should. It's a little bit of execution. We talked about that rotation you've been trying to get the ideal matchup. There's positives and negatives to that. If you get the positive matchup for an extended period of time, it's very good. The issue is if you continue to rotate, you will lose CS on the likes of your late game Kassadin. You want the experience, one of the gold that you want, and ideally you just want that to be there. So at some point, someone's going to have to settle on a lane. It looks like finally we're getting Tarmac top against the Kassadin with the mid lane Wukong up against the Maokai. I think if Tiamat comes through from Tanzo, this actually could be beneficial from the side of World Class Galaxy, given their wave clear advantage with Tanzo being able to roam to bot lane, set up their bot lane for some success, but it depends on how they play out the lane here.
And with these constant lane switches that have been coming through, is World Class Galaxy who have come ahead in the CS department anyway, between the top laners and the mid laners, whoever you deem as the top laners in this game, because let's face it, nobody really knows right now.
And swapping back and forth. They're laners. That's what we're going to call them.
Yes.
They're laners right
Solo
now.
laners, there we go.
Solo laners is a really good place to be. Early on here,
Ooh.
good advantage so far. 4 kills here for the side of Striking Vipers and First Dragon going their way. But it looks like things are starting to settle down at least a little bit and be a little bit more consistent. So now you're going to see D-Lun has a good advantage, about 2 full waves over the top of Pure Genesis. You see in the mid lane, you know, Konzo starting to get a pretty good advantage, 2 kills, or 2, my apologies, waves over the top of Gu for you. And bottom lane is where a lot of the pressure has come down onto. The Muramana starting to come through here for the side of Nick Trump over just the Vampiric Scepter on for Osama, but the more this game goes, the less that advantage means much. I do want to see more pressure put towards Osama, try to get him some gold back in his pocket to let him do the carrying that he needs to do in this mid to late game.
Morn is being very patient.
EV, mid lane.
Gets spotted. TV coming through. It collabs onto Guan Yu. Great nature to grasp, but he will still get CC'd down. Cyclone sidesteps the Glacial Prison beautifully.
He does. Go on you, able to survive so much right there. All that health, the Bramble Vest helping him survive through all of that, making sure he doesn't go down. And I think maybe the ultimate from the likes of this Sejuani should have been used just a little bit faster. If you execute on that, you guarantee the stun after the knockup. You're able to use the second knockup as well, probably get enough damage to bring down Maokai after all things are done in that phase. I think a little bit of a misplay there on the side of World Class where they could have confirmed that kill.
We do have a Rift Herald spawning, so that could be the cause for some aggression. The game has, as you mentioned earlier, Rebel, kind of simmered down a little bit after, well, the kind of a crazy plays we saw in the first few minutes. Still 4 kills to 1 in favor of Striking Vipers, and they have themselves a juicy 1k elite to show for it.
And at the moment, the mass majority of their gold lead is going to be sitting on McTrump, currently on the likes of the Kai'Sa. It's something that you can capitalize on during the lane phase. Again, he's going for the Monomune. I don't really agree. Again, I think I should have gone for that Essence Weaver into Serrated Dirk to get the immediate Q to push as best you can. They actually rotate their bot lane up here for the Rift Herald that's going to be coming through here. Really smart, intelligent play, because they're trying to keep their momentum up. They already have the advantage in this early game. All they got to do is keep their pedal, keep the pedal slightly down. You don't have to ramp it all the way up and put it to the floor, but if you keep the gas on just a little bit here for the side of Striking Vipers, you can continue to capitalize on the gold advantage you've got on your ADC.
Yep. Rift Herald now started up, and Osama and Fly are on their way up, but they're going to be a little bit too late, as is Tinga. Rift Herald secured for Morn, I'm going to guess that gold is either going to get shoved onto Pure Genesis, and by gold I mean the turret plate gold, or onto McTrump to snowball this Kai'Sa even further.
I think putting it on the Kai'Sa is really smart because it allows you to, A, dive the Vayne if you're able to get into the later stages of kind of the team fights, if you're able to get any sort of CC onto the Vayne. If you put it on the Kassadin, yes, it's beneficial, but I don't think it gets you quite as much as getting this Kai'Sa further ahead, where your strength is now going to be able to lie in mid-game team fighting with the Muramana and then the Rage Blade, probably Power Spike, that will be coming very quickly after it.
And Kinney just looking for the potential gank, waiting for McTrumpet to turn up. And we're not getting that engage coming through soon. Oh, concussive blows are getting a drop. Glacial Fissure comes through. The cleanse from Osama. Healing from the Monsoon. Killer Instinct gets dropped. Fly forced to drop the flashes. Kinney getting taken down a little bit low. Captain Rain just drops down Osama a little bit lower as well.
Rather unfortunate. So I think if Osama were just a little bit higher in gold and had maybe the recurve though, that fight probably actually goes in their favor, or they at least get a kill right there, because the attack speed of Osama was just so low. Trying to fit in autos a little bit between, I think he canceled one just off the fact that I think he was expecting to get an auto attack off, where he didn't because the attack speed simply was not there to capitalize on it. So as the attack speed starts to come in, those fights look pretty decent. Fly did have to end up burning the flash and the heal. It was in exchange for it was 3 for 3 with only the flash remaining now on both Osama and McTrump. Really good trade, surprisingly, for the side of World Class Galaxy, who are down a really good amount of gold in their bot lane, but it does free up this Dragon tank here. Tingar looking to contest it with Milan.
The TP coming through, Stormbringer. What is it with a jungler Stormbringing out of the Drake pit? However, the collapser comes through on to Tingar, and the Goon Squad is here. Tonzo, well, the decoy will get taken down as QNU forced to run. Drake does get secured. Genesis has to be a little bit careful for the amount of damage. Tingar gets taken down. Now they can try to look for Osama. Flashes away. CC'd down by Morn. Osama kiting back. The final auto shut down. It gets taken, but the triple kill for Osama on the Vayne. And a Vayne is online.
This is slowly becoming less of a Kassadin versus Vayne angle and a little bit more of a Kai'Sa versus Vayne angle as the game continues. We're going to get Blade of the Ruin King, which I think is going to be a good item. I think Wit's End could also be a good item to reject a lot of the magic damage from Kassadin and from Kai'Sa as the game continues. And picking up 3 kills is a big deal here for Osama. He's able to get at least a lot closer to the gold value. Was down almost 1,000 gold at one point, now down only about 150, 200 gold to his opposition. Really great fight. They lose the dragon, but they get quite a bit of gold back, actually, of their first advantage of the game as well.
And I feel like that was actually a decent fight by Striking Vipers. You know, even though they did give away more kills, but the fact that they got that Drake, I think, is huge.
I agree. At minimum now, if their composition is in a place where they feel like they can force fights around the dragon. My fear for them right now is they're at a gold deficit. They haven't been able to capitalize on the Rift Herald very well, so Morn has to find a place to drop that very quickly. And then also, if they have to fight around the next dragon, that's probably the best point of contention for the side of World Class to look, and that could be a massive turning point for their team if that's going to be the case. Rift Herald's going to be dropped in mid lane. They're going to try to get more gold to make Trump exactly as expected.
Step away, Kimmy. Let your ADC get that gold. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Come on, you're better than that, Kinney.
The fear then becomes, though, I mean, if Tingar is sitting there, you can't just walk away and let McTrump tank an ultimate from Sejuani, end up giving away that life also. Just for 2 tower play, yes, you get like,
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't, yeah, all the gold onto McTrump, doesn't matter if he dies afterwards, yeah.
Should have taken Cleanse.
Should have taken Cleanse. True, actually. I'm a little surprised that they didn't do that with the lane that they were playing against. Not that it mattered in the lane all that much. But...
No. To be honest, I would have thought Exhaust, especially against the Vayne. It makes sense to me. However, Nature's Grass flashed away by Dylan. 2 Drakes on the side of Striking Vipers at the moment. And now, the potential turret dive onto Pure Genesis, which is going to clear out that mini wave. Just keep an eye on Tingar here.
Yeah, has the abilities to dive potentially, but of course it looks like Pure Genesis is going to be able to back off a little bit, knowing there's potential for that movement up towards the top side of the map since they're
he's on a ward.
Oh,
Never
he's
mind.
on. I didn't see it either. Okay, yeah, they're able to see him very easily. Now he's going to reveal. Oh, okay. Doesn't stop the back, but does get another plate here for Tonzo, which is rather nice. That your Wukong, who's another point of contention, potentially another damage source for this team, is going to get a little bit of gold in this spot.
It's always surprising, isn't it, when people realize that there's a gank coming, and then you realize that they're just sitting on a ward, and you think, no, darn wards. I think, you know, wards should just get removed from the game. It'd be so much more fun.
Yeah, you just have to walk blindly into every possible situation. Like,
I think Twisted Fate and Ash would become such nutty champions, to be honest.
Any champion with wave clear in mid lane just becomes the immediate threat of the universe. Just being able to pure wave clear and then just roll around the map, do anything.
Can I start playing Talon again now?
Probably, yeah. I mean, if there's no vision in the game, 100%, but like...
So every assassin.
Every assassin, for most assassins at least, the ones with wave clear minimum.
So this is how Riot plan on bringing assassins back, just nerf wards.
They nerf wards.
So this is why I lost my Sightstone item as a support.
To bring assassins back in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to point out, little interesting from Dylan is he goes from Ludens into the Sork Shoes, which is a bit questionable for me. Yes, it provides you more AP. Yes, it provides you a bit more kind of damage, but it doesn't do what you want it to. I think if you go directly into support from here, you're fine. But again, if you take what do they call? I always forget what they call it. Minion Dematerializer. You can actually completely negate the necessity for additional AP in your kit with something like the Ludens, because you're able to completely wipe out the caster minion line with a single non-ultimate Q, and that's what lets you roam around and control the lane a lot more. Building something like the Sword Shoes and the Ludens gives you more damage for fights. I guess that's positive, but you aren't going to be superpowering Osama anytime soon, since you've got to wait a little bit longer for things like the Ardent Sensor, like the Morale, or the Ardent, or the Thingies.
Speaking of waiting, Tonzo is doing none of that. The Cyclone comes through. Tonzo takes down Pure Genesis, and this is, at the end of the day, why we wanted to see the Wukong go into the Kassadin lane.
Yeah, you're able to abuse it a lot better than something like the Karma. You put a little bit more pressure on it. I think also, honestly, if it had been the Karma lane, Kassadin probably could have gone into Seraph's as well. Actually, he's going to buy that tier anyway. I don't think it was necessary. I think you need to go just more into direct AP to get online a little bit faster than Seraph, especially buying it this late into the game. But the Wukong, I thought, was going to be the deterrent for that, but obviously they think differently. And now, Mountain Drake, first one of the game, comes through for World Class, and that is somewhat of an objective, going really heavily into their pockets. Now, Vayne's starting to come online. First Dragon denied here from the side of Striking Vipers. Actually looking pretty good here. I'm surprised Striking Vipers have given this much in the mid game so far.
Yeah, however, they do take the Drake in the process, so I guess it's not the end of the world for Striking Vipers, and maybe they can look to pick up a second outer turret, or look for the inner turret in the mid lane. Currently 1 turret to 1.
There is, and not to mention, you still have your insanely powerful Kaiser that's going to be coming online. It has now completed enough itemization to get that Q upgrade, if I recall. I'm going to check that. Yeah, it has more than enough, and then the E upgrade will be coming through pretty quickly once you get a little bit more attack speed under your belt. And once that comes about, your Kaiser is going to be very terrifying to deal with. My question then becomes, though, if you've got Karma with quite a bit of AP, and you've got a very strong Wukong, which you do with Trinity Force, then the threat onto McTrump actually becomes a lot better. So then the question becomes, is it easier for Karma and for Wukong to access McTrump, or is it easier for somebody like Gu or Morn or Braum, or my bad girlfriend, G-Friend, to be able to get onto Osama? And my response to that is, it's probably easier for Tonzo to get onto McTrump, making it easier to burst out the opposing ADC.
And this is what we talked about in the draft as well. What is going to be better when it comes to these engages? Are the Ardent, or... Hang on, I was going to say something slightly offensive, but... I stopped myself in time. I was going to say, are the Enchanter supports are going to be more impactful in peeling their ADCs, or is it going to be the tanks of the Maokai, the Volibear, and the Brawl?
That's a really good question, especially given the... I'm not going to say, like, super positive strength, but right now, in terms of gold, the Maokai and the Volibear staying very relevant within the confines of this game, actually completely leading the Kassadin at this point due to their ability to farm. So there's definitely a possibility of that. Their base damage is higher.
Can
They're
we get
all over that
CC
wall.
down?
Can we get a counter for number of times we see a Volibear ult over that wall during the course of this game? Apparently, it's all of them. It's all the ults coming over that wall.
Bears love walls. What can you say? But
Bears love walls.
Bears love walls.
That's your response to that. Bears love walls. Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Have you not seen Winnie the Pooh? Like, that entire show is all about, like, a bear trying to climb walls.
Pretty sure it's about him getting honey, and it's trees that he's climbing.
Same thing. Trees, walls. They're tall.
Oh.
Good Glacial Prison coming through. Now the collapse are flashed forward. Osama wants the kill, but he will not be able to find it. And I guess, well, the tank support is pretty good. Glacial Fissure does get dropped. Kinney tumble forward, will be able to find the kill. Pure Genesis with the teleport in. But look who's coming in from behind. The Killer Instinct. Osama is deleted. And on the front of foot come the side of the Striking Vipers. Pure Genesis forced to use the flash. The damage coming through. Cyclone into the backline is not enough. But Tingar will take the kill, but it will be the trade. A failed flash from Fly, and he's not going to fly over the wall. He's just going to fly right into a Kassadin. 4 kills for 2 in favor of Striking Vipers, and they're going to look for the full fight.
A lot of Sunrise back and forth. It looks like Elon actually is going to get run down here eventually by Morn, unless this W really does come in very clutch. I think he actually gets out. Yeah. All right. Very close.
You can talk now.
I can talk. I was just making sure that the fight was finally over because it was rather extended. It was really good potential. I have to give a ton of props here to G-Friend and McTrump, who were in a really rough position to start there. I thought they were going to go down very quickly. It was going to end up being a 2-for-0 and no fight would come through. But because of the stopwatch coming through from G-Friend, stalling that so long, they were able to get Gu on you into a fantastic flank position. And that ultimate from him is what allowed McTrump to get into the fight, ult onto the backline to catch Osama, and he ends up going down to Kai's damage off the back of that ultimate coming through from the flank. And once that's done, who's your damage after that? You got Tanzo, you've got Dylan on the likes of the Wukong and the Karma respectively, but neither one of them does enough damage to pure carry a fight. If Osama is dead, it's very difficult to find a fight unless you've already got pure Genesis from brought down.
Tanzo getting slightly caught out. However, I do still think that we're in a stage where Dylan and Tonzo are strong on the Wukong and Karma. Pure Genesis is not at the level 16. He's still a Casa Bin, technically. Doesn't have his second mana item completed item. However, out comes the Nature's Grass, trying to buy a time for the Drake to get completed. Glacial Fissure gets a drop. Kini gets taken down. Who takes the Drake? It will go the way of Striking Vipers. Bigger fight. Pure Genesis will it get deleted? And, well, World Class once again, they lose the Drake, but they win the fight, and now they might be able to take the Baron as well.
Nah, since Osama's dead, they don't really have the damage to actually do so, especially not the consistent damage to do so. But right there, you actually saw Striking Vipers play very heavily into the favor of the side of World Class Galaxy by playing a little bit more front-to-back style than something where you're able to cluster everybody together. You ended up losing Braum very early, and had it not been for very aggressive positioning by the likes of Osama, if he had gotten one auto attack on a McTrump, it would have been good. Go on you. How is he surviving this long? My goodness.
I believe they call it Maokai.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think they do call it Maokai. It's specifically massive.
It might have something to do with the fact that Karma and Janna don't deal damage, and Wukong does, but Maokai has lots of armor, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, it took a while, but they ended up getting him all things. After everything, they get him. So that's
to be honest, that brings me to something that I did want to talk about much earlier on in the game, but we've just had so much fighting there hasn't been a ton to really talk about it.
Sure.
Which is the fact that Dylan, at the end of the day, he's not playing one of his carry champions. He's not playing a Syndra, an Orianna, something that can have an impact even in a 1v1 setting. He has been demoted to support duty, to support Osama in the later stages of the game, correct?
Up till this point, I think he's actually been a really respectable carry with the likes of the Ludens and the Sword Shoes.
Yeah.
The damage will fall off
But it's
eventually, and yes,
exactly.
it'll be more supportive. But there's still plenty that the Karma has in terms of skill expression. Do you use an ult Q to try to pressure onto McTrump? Do you use an ult E to try to get your team out of a situation? Do you use your W with the ult to try to drain tank through a fight or something? Be a little bit more frontline to help people with the tail guard. There's some of that, and I agree with you that I think Dylan playing a carry is more his style. Maybe the Karma is what's a little bit suited for him in this particular case, but believes they'll win with this one.
Okay, like, I'm not going to diss on the Karma this time, but... So, like, okay, sure, put it in a situation where, yes, the Karma is great because it revolves around the vein. I see, you know, Osama being in this situation where he's super far ahead, this Karma is useful. My question is, though, does this not mean that the side of World Class do not have enough AP, and itemizing armor for the side of Striking Vipers is just too easy of a way for them to deny the power of the Vayne and the Wukong?
If this were a standard marksman, I'd say that's the case, but because this is a Rage Blade Vayne with Blade the Rune King, I think it's really difficult to itemize armor with true damage coming through, especially in front to back, which already is their idea here. That's the intention. And yes, you still do have supplementary AP damage. You've got Ardent Sensor on Osama, you've got Tanzo who's shredding armor with the likes of his Q, you've got Dylan who's able to drop some pretty massive Qs, especially onto non-magic resist players. But I like you said, the magic damage isn't there. I don't think the damage is really gone, especially if Osama's able to live through fights.
Okay. Yeah, that true damage from the Vayne Silver Bolts will be rather nutty. Baron is up as Kinney just holds the way for McTrump, and we're getting closer to that 30-minute stage. 1.5 minutes to the Mountain Drake, and that could be Mountain Soul for Striking Vipers. And that would be absolutely massive. And we talked about this is, you know, the enchanters versus the tanks, and the tanks would absolutely love to get the mountain. So much damage onto Fly. Killer Instinct comes through, and the auto is enough to take the kill off. Flasher forward, Winter Spike, Condemn will send a Kinney backwards.
Okay, I'm really worried that Osama's going to stay really highly positioned here with a lot of members underneath of him at the moment, and that could be troublesome. This Baron is a legitimate threat now that you've lost a lot of your forward warding with Fly, especially since he's got his ultimate and his heal up. TP's coming into mid lane to try to get that!
Oh. Twisted Advance denies the teleport, and the Baron has been started. Tonzo will not be having an impact. The turnaround, Stormbringer. Where is Osama? Well, he is dead. Tindar will be the next focus, and Guanyu says, hello, Sejuani, I want to play, and then says, actually, no, there's a lot of you, I don't want to play, but it might be a little bit too late for him because the focus resolve will lock him down. Tonzo finds the kill. The Baron has been started down to 6,000 HP, but Striking Vipers will be forced back.
You have...
Oh, Tonzo! Cyclone, flash away, can avoid Seeker, clip. Well, hasn't been fired up by McDrum.
It was. Actually pulls a lot of attention away. The problem right here is that because Pure Genesis is now on this pure scaling, which he does have his 2-item power spike with 8,000 gold, then you have good amount of damage. But outside of that, you're really relying exclusively on McTrump to try to get Baron damage, and so you saw all of the damage coming through from D-Lun was so much AoE, he was able to drop the health bars of the friend of Morn, of everybody that was sitting there. And so McTrump is untouched, but his front line was not. And because of that, they weren't able to continue on the Baron out of fear of the fight coming through. Now they're looking potentially for Mountain Soul to come through, but here's Osama. He's already back. They're ready for this fight.
But there is a lot of unspent gold. This is going to be big. Who gets the Drake? It's stolen. McTrump, look how low he is. He's staying alive. He's dishing out the autos, and the Acadian Rain takes down Fly, but not until after he gets taken down himself. A 3-for-1 in favor of World Class Galaxy. Now they can look towards the Baron, and this game, Rebel, is just seesawing like a crazy.
That was way overstaying from the side of Striking Vipers, and that was a severe mistake. I haven't seen them make a lot of pure mistakes, and that was perhaps the biggest one I've seen them make all series, because they had been at Baron, then they looped around a tower, missed out on potentially saving the tower by fighting Tonzo and end up losing him in the tower process, and then they walked directly to Dragon with 3 members, 2 of which were low at the time. That is just an absolutely unacceptable way to try to find any sort of semblance of team fighting or macro whatsoever. You give another Mountain Drake, you give more kills over to this team, especially this Vayne, who's slowly getting a lot. Actually, one auto off in 2 separate fights now has Osama bin from just destroying McTrump. I had left him alive way too long in that last one for comfort, at least from a focus standpoint, but really, really well done again from this team, capitalizing on the mistake made by Striking Vipers.
Yeah. Maybe we need to see McTrump and Osama both picking up at those Guardian Angels at some point soon, because they are both huge. Someone else who can become huge is Pure Genesis, but he is still a Casa bin. Not yet the Casa Win, or Casa Don if you prefer. As we just see Guanyu just trying to catch this wave, because, well, the side of Striking Vipers are in a tricky situation. They just are not quite going to be able to find his Mark Killer instinct. Tonzo will get the elated shutdown, goes right over onto McTrump, but now World Class they'll push through in the mid lane, and at least they'll get the inhibitor turret hit.
Yeah, really, really smart. I do want to see them immediately turn around, though. I'm very afraid of the prospect of them trying to fight. I guess they know that Kaiser was backing from those minions top, but the engagement's here.
Stormbringer comes through, but McTrump is not here yet. Don't forget, no Killer Instinct is available. Glacian Prison will misses his mark as they try to find Osama. Look at the shield, but it's instantly wiped out. Tindar gets taken down. That is the ace for the side of Striking Vipers. Wow.
Incredible amounts of sustain coming through from that fight. I'm really shocked that they opted for the 4v4. What ended up being a 4v5 once the Kaiser had rejoined. I really think they could have taken the inhibitor tower, just walked away, and it's still mistakes coming through on both sides. Tonzo walked too far up without a lot of pressure anywhere else on the map. They end up getting the mid tower, but it was still a drastic over pushing on his part. And then their team also pushing too far, losing their Baron buff. At minimum, they take away first Baron, they maintain a dragon, or they maintain their dragon status within the game. They keep a gold lead, and they're continuing to try to press forward with the likes of this Vayne strategy. But so far, we've seen really good stuff from the side of Striking Vipers, especially Morn and Guanyu getting onto Osama, preventing him from just playing front to back.
Okay, and I just want to keep an eye on Pure Genesis. He's got 10 stacks on the Rod of the Ages. The Seraph's Embrace is unlocked. He's got 900 gold, 7 stacks on the Dark Seal, level 15 as well. Just 1 away from 16. This is going to be big, especially with a Drake And a Mountain Soul Drake spawning in just under 2 minutes time.
Will be really important, I think, for both sides to keep an eye on this. And I do like the way that World Class is currently pushing up their vision. They have 1:32, so it's a little bit fast. Maybe waiting for the rotation coming out here. Actually, Kaiser could be in some trouble. They try to make the move down.
Oh, but this is a collapse. Good sense coming through from the side of Striking Vipers. Kinar stepping forward, and no one really knows if they want to take the fight. They don't know where everyone else is, and they don't want to risk everything. Another Death Brush will come through. The Tornado finds his mark, Winter's Bite, lands onto Tingar, but the passive obviously denies it any form of slow. Right now, it's just a stalemate.
We're seeing it kind of opt more for this like pure team fighting style, where we're likely going to have to wait another 49 seconds for that dragon to spawn before anything else. And a really, really kind of fast play from World Class. They get the vision into the top, this kind of sided jungle. But then you're
Look at Pure Genesis.
Seconds. Yeah, you see Pure Genesis just pushing to try to do as he can at this point. But he is pulling them completely out of the river. That's kind of that's a little bit rough. They were able to push out the mid lane. Now Tingar in some stress.
Will the TP come through? Not needed. Pure Genesis is already here. Front to back team fight. The TP getting dropped by Tonzo. Look at Osama. What can he do on the base? He finds the condemn. Pure Genesis will be able to rift, walk out. The focus Osama is down once again. Tonzo will go golden, but he's going to get instantly collapsed. And when he comes back up, the Cyclone does nothing. 2 kills for Zilch. And now Striking Vipers will look towards the Drake. And it's all on a Tingar. He's on a ward, and he's just going to get zoned well away. Mountain Soul gets secured, and this is going to make things so much more difficult for World Class Galaxy. Tingar will get taken down as well. No way out. Pure Genesis takes the kill. Still not level 16 yet.
Yet another fight, I think, that is completely lost across the board, in which Vayne, yet again, gets caught out in the middle of the fight from a really good flank, this time from Morn and from Go On You, where they're able to find this backline access. That was a fight they could have won. They had somebody pinned to the wall. They were able to find a really good target, but they warp around the wall with their composition and go from front to back to left to right. And that little angle, that little setup of geometry is what allowed for Morn and Go On You to find a really good engagement onto Osama. And he getting burst out once again. You got no damage once he's down. You gotta keep him alive. He's gotta play further back in these fights, or if he's gonna play aggressive, you need to buy him space. Fly has to be further up to use that ultimate to push members back when they try to get on top of them, because if they don't, they're going to keep losing and the game is lost for them.
We've got a Mikhail's completed by Fly, a QSS on top of Osama's cleanse. There is a lot of ways of denying CC right now to keep this Vayne going. It is quite obvious what the win condition is for World Class Galaxy, but Rebel, we are finally there. We have a Casa win. And Morn is running. He's got eyes only for Osama as Kinney with the Unbreakable. And in goes the Pure Genesis. So much damage. Dylan will get taken out. Osama gets taken down. Triple kill for Genesis. And, well, they'll be able to find the shutdown onto Murgatroyd. Will this be the Quadra? Indeed, it is. Now, someone give this man a pentakill. He's had to play Casa Bin for the last 30 minutes. And, oh, Tingar has been spotted. And Pure Genesis, well, he's purely got eyes only for the Penta. He's here. Rebel, get excited. Viewers, get excited. The Force Pulse will slow down Tingar. 13 seconds. The Pentakill might be delayed, but wouldn't this be funny if Go On You steals this right at the last second? It's only an ace for Pure Genesis, but it's a Pentakill in our hearts.
That it is. Now, I do have a problem with the fact that the stalling of the wave came out, did come through from Tingar, and so they're not able to go and just immediately end the game. They have to play off the back of this Baron, and they do only have 1,000 gold lead. There's at least that to consider. But at this point, as you said, Pure Genesis picked up 5 kills. No longer the Casa was, now the Casa is during the course of this game. And then you've got Kaiser, who's full itemization, been full itemization for that entire fight, is exceptionally stronger than just about anybody you can imagine on this board. And so the use of this Baron buff is going to be massive for the boards in this one. I did see little inklings of potential coming through from the side of World Class, because we saw them defend Osama a lot better, and we saw Tonzo get onto the likes of Nick Trump to put out that damage. There is some thought, but now you have to worry about Pure Genesis getting on top as well, and this is a team that already hasn't shown their ability to defend Osama very well.
Void Starver will be the final item for Pure Genesis, most likely, unless we do see the Morello Nomicon coming through, which is also possible with the amount of healing that the Karma and the Janna will be providing.
And it is. And this is slowly just starting to rack up as a game where, the full scaling on the side of Striking Vipers is coming through and shelling. And the fact that the Maokai is becoming massive, the Volibear is becoming this massive tank. Karma's damage is completely offline at this point, so you're really, really relying on Osama and Hanzo to do quite a bit of the work here. And Mick Trump and Pure Genesis now have a lot of the pressure that you would want to be able to work with at this moment in the game. I'm curious if they're just going to push directly up, try to trade an inhibitor. They're going to back, they're going to make sure that fight will come through, and it'll deny them from getting anything else.
I was about to start screaming base race, but World Class, they've spotted that the backs have come through and they want no part of it. They don't want to risk for an inhibitor. They know what happened last time round. And Striking Vipers will just push through now in the mid lane, and they can look to try to crack open the base for themselves.
I really like that play coming through from the side of World Class. I do think shoving up the mid lane, which is your most pushed in lane, to prevent those minions from crashing faster, as well as pulling pressure off of the side lane tower. But again, this is slowly becoming really, really ridiculous for them to try to defend. They're down 3,000 gold. They're getting shoved in by Baron minions. Worst case scenario, this Baron leads to an Elder Drake, and it feels exactly like what happened last game. Yes, there was a little bit more contention across all fights and across all of the mid game, but it was just more elongated. When it came to the late game so far, Striking Vipers have looked like the far dominant team in terms of everything and in terms of execution, and now all they have to do, shove in mid, shove in bot, go for the Elder Drake, and at that point, I don't think there is a way to defend Osama from the likes of the Kai'Sa and the Cassid in this lane.
Well, we said it was a 1k gold right after the Baron got taken. We are now talking about a 4k gold. Striking Vipers have definitely utilized the Baron in their favor, and now we have an Elder up in 40 seconds time. The Elder spelled the end of game 1. Let's see whether it can spell the end of game 2.
I'm going to guess that's going to be the case. At least, at minimum, they're going to have to find a fight. I think the fight around the dragon is what's going to be more important here than anything else. If the fight comes out somewhere else, that it doesn't matter. But I feel like maybe their control in that jungle is going to lead to a lot. So they're going to have to push from the mid lane here. And they're already setting up for that, where you see the Volibear, you see the Maokai waiting for this team in the wings, just ready for the engagement.
Here we go. As Morn wanted to go in, then decides to get into front to back. Team fight will come through. Tingar is going to be the focus. Keep an eye out for Osama. What is he able to do? Kiting your back. But in goes the Volibear. Osama gets a lockdown. He'll cleanse, but he'll get it. Bramble smashes it down. A double kill for McTrump. It's the triple, and that is going to be the ace. Striking Vipers, they strike hard once again. They find the fight. And, well, this game was super close for about 20 minutes, but then it slowly turned into their favors. And Striking Vipers will take the 2-0, and they will advance to the Upsurge Minor League, a lower bracket, round 5.
That they will. And really, really impressive display. We talked about coming in, Striking Vipers. They've had to run the gauntlet. They've gone through so many rounds trying to get through everything. And we didn't see World Class Galaxy really have another competitor. Perhaps that break in time in which they weren't able to find that win left them without enough maybe grind just to try to get into this one. And there we see right there, they end up losing game number 2. I don't think it was a ridiculously lost draft. I think the game plan definitely could have been improved upon, because we saw Striking Vipers. They threw a wrench into the cog early. They were able to keep their Kai'Sa going. They stalled enough time for the Cassidon to get involved, and eventually their composition just wins because they have better scaling.
Yeah, I do 100% agree. I'm not going to say I called it, but, called it. Sorry about that, Rebel. Don't play Karma. Don't play. It's terrible.
Don't play Karma.
Play Karma support.
Okay,
Karma setting up.
20 minutes of this game, though, Dylan was absolutely destroying. You saw those keys. You look at his damage numbers. He actually did more damage than the Cassidon over the course of the entire game.
Yeah, but that's because he was just trading all the time. Like, it doesn't matter if you do damage if it gets healed. It's like saying, look at the damage I did. I did 1k damage, but it doesn't matter if it was on a 6k Cho'Gath that
You wanna
heals it
hear-
right back up.
You want to hear something that's absolutely not controversial in any way? This Kassadin meant
Oh, yes.
absolutely nothing to this game. Not in the slightest. McTrump getting ahead early, getting
He
all
got a
the
pentakill.
getting ahead. Doesn't matter. It could have been any mid laner. It doesn't
True.
matter that it was Kassadin.
Mm,
McTrump in the early.
Okay, it could have been any mid laner. If instead of a Kassadin, Pure Genesis was playing a Karma, Striking Vipers would have lost.
You just hate karma, man. It doesn't matter. It really
Yeah,
doesn't.
okay.
McTrump took over the game. They
Yes,
played to the
100%,
Kaiser condition.
100%.
They shut down the opposing Vayne win condition, and the mid-game fights were just propped up off the Luden's karma, off the fact of the Wukong damage, and there was not enough peel at all for Osama. He was getting caught with slight CC that allowed McTrump to get in. I still don't believe this was the optimal build for early game, especially if they wanted to snowball. They could have taken this game to another level if they had that Q upgrade a little bit faster, but obviously McTrump had more than enough damage to get those upgrades and enough gold to try to get himself sprung very, very quickly. And we saw time and time again his ability to just pick off Osama or somebody else to find the engage on Osama, and then there's no damage afterwards to make any sort of play happen. This was never really in contention. Once McTrump had the advantage, it never lost it, and there was never a scout in my mind that Striking Vipers were going to win. It was just about a fact of how long was it going to take them to win, and apparently it took them till a pentakill for Pure Genesis to come through.
Unofficial pentakill, but McTrump, fantastic performance. Also, I just want to give a massive shout out to Morn for, oh, pardon me, it wasn't Morn, it was Gu and you for that gank level 1 in the bot lane. Absolutely fantastic to get McTrump ahead, and McTrump 1,136 damage per minute on the Kaiser. That is ridiculous.
I said Kaiser. It was a Kaiser diff. It really was. It was his ability to take the champion to another level. And they had the gameplay, like you said, the initial kink from Gu on you, and then they were playing the shenanigans around the solo lanes for a little while that caused a little bit of a rift in that regard. But they created so much separation for their bot lane that there was just never any competition down there. It was a really great idea of how to play the game from the side of Striking Vipers. It shows me that they're super creative. I'm terrified of this team coming after this game. This is a really good roster that they came out, played against, a really good set of compositions. They drafted well. They executed their drafts well. That, I think, is the most important bit.
However, with that, that is all that we do have time for. Striking Vipers continue their gauntlet run. Can they make it all the way to the grand finals? Well, I guess we'll have to find out in due course. Thank you guys, everyone, very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to hit Upsurge up with a follow here on Twitch and on Twitter as well at UpsurgeGG, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it is UpsurgeGG. I've been Milky here, joined up by the fantastic Rebel Fox. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Striking Vipers take the Upsurge Minor League at lower brackets around 4. Until next time, guys, make sure to stay tilt-proof on the Rift, and good night.